What is up, LobotomizeGang is the guy. You know, is the monkey in nice pants and interesting neckties. This video is a compilation of all of my personal favorite moments ever since I decided to subject myself to this personal hell that is YouTube. Man, I kinda say, making this video unironically feels like I'm witnessing my descent into insanity. I miss the person I used to be before YouTube. And far be it for me to disappoint, I have personally hand-placed a secret hidden message somewhere inside this video. So I challenge you to find it and put it in the comment section, alright? And I promise you, once you find it, you will never be the same again. So, if you're just here for the fun, then skip straight to this timestamp to get right into the action. And if this is the first time you've seen my channel, then I gonna warn you though, the consumption of my content may prove detrimental to your mental well-being, alright? You have been warned. But if you have decided to stay here, then I have a few things to say to all of my viewers. First of all, of course, I'd like to thank all of my subscribers who've been with me on this entire journey. Know that I really appreciate you. Even if you just watch my videos and don't comment or like or anything, just know that by watching one of my videos and deriving some sort of entertainment from it, you guys are making my day. All of my patrons, who I greatly, deeply appreciate, okay? Without these guys, I wouldn't be sitting here trying to make my YouTube dream come true, okay? Instead, I would be trying to do something that actually contributes to society in meaningful ways. Like, you know, teaching what I went to university for. But I digress. Sometimes it doesn't feel like I allocate enough time in my videos to make that point abundantly clear. But you know, it is all because of the state of YouTube at the moment. Nowadays on YouTube, it is all about retention. And I feel like if I just stop the content, interrupt the content for just 1 second, everybody will just click off. YouTube now just feels like a machine that is designed to specifically weed out all of the channels, all of the YouTube videos that doesn't have a high enough retention rate. You know, I cannot just place the Patreon section at the beginning of my video because I feel like people might just forget about it. And I can't place it at the end of my videos because, as we all know, we are not allowed to have an outro to our videos anymore. Even just a slightest hint of a dip in retention rate, especially at the end of the video, and YouTube will put that video into the corner, right? But you know, I'm sure that if you guys watch my channel and like it enough to subscribe, then you understand the person that I am, right? And I have nothing but appreciation for you guys, okay? I take this YouTube thing very seriously. Okay, look, the best way I can put it is that I do not want to just play games for a living, okay? Alright? I want to make entertaining videos that bring enjoyment to my viewers for a living, right? And just the thought of my videos triggering a sudden discharge of air out of your guys' nostrils is enough to make my day. And the fact that I can make a living off of that is honestly a dream come true for me, which it hasn't, okay? It hasn't come true yet. But we're getting there, right? We're on our way to get there. But it's just that YouTube, what do you want, YouTube? Huh? What do I have to do to be successful on YouTube? How much do I have to sacrifice? I have been posting YouTube shorts lately, and the biggest one has 2,000 viewers, okay? And in that video, in the comment section, there is somebody who commented that I sound like Dope TV, right?
It's quite hard to stare at these artworks. So you already know what we are doing today.
So you guys like accents, right? So do I have to pull out my Vietnamese accent, huh? Do I have to fake it like Uncle Rogers, huh? Or should I go the whole way and just speak Vietnamese in the middle of a sentence, hả? Tự nhiên đã nói tiếng Việt giữa câu vậy hả? Thật ra nói cũng được không? Nhưng mà làm biết đưa phụ đề vào. What the hell do you want, YouTube, huh? What do you need? I am going insane. So the plan right now is to just take it slow, going step by step, you know, accumulating knowledge, learning new editing techniques, learning about comedy, all that kind of jazz, and see where the journey takes us. But wherever that may be, I am glad, I truly appreciate you guys being on the same journey with me and witnessing my descent into insanity. 2025 is going to be a big year for the channel. Dare I say, the biggest year we have on the channel. Ha! Now, without further ado, let's get into the video, shall we? And remember to keep an eye out for the hidden message. Alright? Exanima, Latin for lifeless or devoid of life, which accurately describes your characters in the game, and also me, and the controls, which seems to be the biggest hurdle for new players and people who don't like cock and ball torture. So this makes me really excited for what they have to offer next. You know, assuming that they finish this game before the apocalypse. And you might be quite happy to hear that the story mode is quite extensive, feature-rich, and fully functioning, similar to my But I gotta say though, the fact that I'm surprised to see a complete story mode when I buy a game is quite telling of early access and the video game industry as a whole. You can do so many fancy moves and maneuvers, but they are hidden behind a gigantic f***off wall that is the goofy control. It's like Dark Souls, but every move you make is a nameless king fight, complete with the wonky camera. So baiting out attacks might seem like a sound strategy at first, but as you level up and fight higher level crackheads and subsequently they higher methamphetamine quality, you might find yourself having to use your brain in order to actually land a swing. The skill floor, which is the minimum brain processing power required to play the game, can be seen as too high for many, especially if they possess single-digit IQ. Your first dozen fights are gonna end up like two doped-up hobos beating the shit out of each other with sticks and handsaws. Basically an average day in Skid Row. Every single move has a dedicated button to it, right? So every time you want to do something crazy, you just press a button, which makes it less satisfying, okay? It makes it, waters it down. But in this game, you have one button for, pretty much every single action move that you have, like fighting moves. So if you want to make some crazy shit, you're gonna have to combine movement keys and everything. You get what I mean. You have a brain, right? I mean, I'm an atheist, alright? But after the milk incident at Blizzard, I mean, I have to believe that there's a hell somewhere. I mean, like, these motherfuckers, they came straight out of hell. How are you supposed to explain people like Bobby Kotick or Andrew Ryan? Your character's weight and height have great effects on your path to ultimate hobo domination. She's strong, she's gassed out of her melons, and she will brutalize you. Couple this with higher tiers armors and pole-arm weapons, and Big Beth can wreak more havoc on Europe's homeless population than TikTok does to a Gen Z's brain. I mean, this is motherfucker on TikTok that eats tapeworms for views. What the f***? We truly are doomed. Ready or not, I'm shooting you anyway is a thinking man's FPS. A slow-paced, methodical, squad-based, first-person thinker is what you would say if you're a freaking pussy. This is We're blowing down the doors and the time for surrender was over when you decided to whip out the 9 at his convenience store. I swear he was like this before we came in. Radionaut has been in somewhat of a development hell, in which updates are further apart than your bully's mom's leg after you're done with her. F***ing Chad. The game received very positive reviews across the board with glowing praises on Metacritic such as cool game and good, though the lack of updates is getting on many people's nerves even though we just got an update in December 2022, you ungrateful fuck. This positive reception is undoubtedly due to the fact that Radionaut fills the gaping hole that was left by Squad 4 after Irrational Game was gaped by BioShock Infinite, a game which destroyed not only the BioShock franchise but also the mental state of Ken Levine, who was pushed to his limits by the entirely ethical and not at all corrupt video game company 2K. You play as a squad team leader in LA. Oh, I'm sorry. The fictional city of Los Sueños, California, a place that just happens to look and feel exactly like Los Angeles, complete with accurate meth labs and crack dens. You have The Hand, which is a generic terrorist group with an even more generic name. They do the usual mass shooting and the occasional bombing on the weekends. These maps take your team to locations varying from friendly and mundane, such as a nightclub, a car dealership, my local crack den, a hotel, to places which can only be described as not safe for life, such as a house that is used to make when they. You can take on these maps in any given order because there's no progression system yet. Just pick a place and go shoot it up. You have to be allowed by the criminals to even point the gun in their direction. And if you shoot before they call a lawyer, sign a waiver and an NDA, your points are deducted for unauthorized force. Excuse me, I'm here to bring order to chaos. And the way you are kneeling is vaguely chaotic to me. So you know. The real fun is in raid mode, when they hand you an assault rifle and let you loose on the meth addict population of Los Sueños. Taste them to death, or prolong their suffering with a paintball gun before double tapping to make sure they don't get up and blow the back of your skull open. Remember, it's only non-lethal if you don't mag them. Putting bullets into people is satisfying with somewhat of a learning curve due to the extensive recoil system, which requires quick level of control if you decide to go with full auto like a true quiet kid. These can hide under beds, behind doors, and even inside walls like the guy inside your apartment right now. Where was I? Oh, the AI. Sometimes I'm actually surprised by how well Void Interactive depicts the erratic behavior of my neighbors. Your AI squad members can take on these criminals in a variety of ways. They can breach and shoot, breach and bang, ram and shoot, blow, bang, and then shoot. What the f***? Whether it's shooting faces or taking facial shots, the sound design carries the whole experience. The devs went out of their way to make sure that when you put a virtual bullet into a petty criminal, somebody loses their unemployed cousin in real life. Right, so in conclusion, whether or not, ready or not, is a game for you depends on two questions. Question number one, do you have big balls? And question number two, are your glutes strong enough to carry those balls? Because after all, this is what it's all about, isn't it? Whether or not you can squat 4 plates on each side. But I do believe Void Interactive will deliver, since fans would actually send SWAT teams to hunt them down if they're trying to pull a fast one. Hey, you like music? Of course you do, everybody does. God damn it! Me too! So let me ask you again, do you like heavy metal music? Are you as smart as a chimpanzee because they can press a button on beat, and if you can do that, you can play this game? Wow! But a quick glance at open world survival MMO activated my gag reflex faster than looking into the mirror, so I stay away from that. I'm not really into the whole logging in every day for 2 hours dick flattening session kind of thing. The Steam page says that this game was developed by the Outsiders, which is a f***ing lie. You're just like my ex! So it is only logical to come to the somewhat depressing conclusion that on the path to conquering the hell of mediocre military FPS games, the developer lost the battle to Satan himself, getting mercilessly gaped, their insides bursting into flame, leaving only a desecrated corpse as a reminder to those with ambition of a brighter future for video games. Story! In Hellsinger, you play as Hell Mommy, a being the game refers to as a lost soul on a quest to break out of hell and recover her voice, thus becoming Throat Goat. Okay, just a side note, I probably missed a ton of narration from the game because the motherfucker keeps mumbling random shit when I was bobbing to the music.
Beat that behemoth came crashing down. Nightmares here. Imagine it, baby. They were ready for us. At least they tried to be. Chaos crystal nearby somewhere.
The journey takes them through twisted apocalyptic hellscapes, full of violence, suffering, and disfigured abominations, referred to in the book of lore as England. You even get to feel like a real British citizen when the police come out of nowhere and assault you just for being autistic. And have I told you that this is also a psychological horror game? What do you mean? Oh, because after listening to the same music over and over and over again while being trapped in a small arena in literal hell, unable to move on, you can open to lobotomize yourself. Only for it to get shafted as the consumers flock to familiar products of lesser quality. Alright, look. I don't want to turn every video into anti-corporate propaganda, but this is a war against the f***ing forces of entropy. Do whatever it takes to stop them, defeat them, gut them. If I gotta kill, I'll kill. If I need your body, I'll f***ing... A few notable mentions are the Scythe, which gives you the special abilities of Discord mods that lets you keep people away by just existing, and the alternate attack of the crossbow works similar to Diablo 4. It f***ing sucks. The soundtrack generally falls into the power metal category, which I do find appropriate for a game that is all about murdering your way out of hell. As long as you don't get tired of people constantly screaming Sigma Metal grindset into your ears. Knock knock. Who's there? Al. Al who? Published by 3D Realms. They were the people who created the original Sigma Male legend Duke Nukem, and also the only people who ever managed to defeat the original Sigma Male legend Duke Nukem. A heroic, ass-kicking, misogynistic... what? The game is what many would consider a boomer shooter, a subgenre of games that aims to bring FPS back to their former glory, with fast-paced action, health pickups, graphic that doesn't look like a toilet bowl except for this game, and level design which I think could qualify as tests for dementia. Judging by the way Cultic has and is turning out, the developers' ambitions for the game seems to be higher than the average Skid Row hobo on fentanyl. In an effort to differentiate Cultic from Blood and the plethora of FPS games, JSOS Games has truly subverted my expectations. Because from what I can gather, instead of playing as a good guy, you play as a psychopathic maniac on a murderous rampage against innocent citizens of a small town somewhere in the mountains. The survivors as well as the local authorities have taken up arms to defend themselves. These people thought they have gotten the best of us, but because we're on a Sigma Male grind, we have been resurrected to finish the job. Our journey to stop the Joker's plan for world domination takes us through a variety of locations, such as small buildings, underground caves, all the way up the mountains, and even through my basement. This looks like you fell headfirst into a puddle of mud after smearing poo on your face and taking LSD. I'm not saying it's bad, but you know, maybe the artistic vision might be a little bit too clear on this one. I suppose the graphic does convey the sheer depth of shit your character is in, which is kind of awesome when you think about it. Methodically popping heads from a distance with the rifle is an effective way to safely take enemies out, as well as becoming a beta male cuck. A real Sigma male looks his enemies in the eyes as he blows them. That didn't come out. Or you can play the game the way it's meant to be played. Watch very carefully, I can only demonstrate this one time. I call this the Twin Towers maneuver. Remember kids, it's only a war crime if you're in the army. Ha! Dumbass can't even see me. I believe more enemies will be added in the full release of the game. Maybe then we can fight the worst kind of cultists, people who enjoy Jared Leto's Joker. Right off the bat, this is beyond impressive because the amount of content and polish just from the first chapter here is enough to make a AAA studio blush in embarrassment. And by AAA studio, I mean 343. And by blush in embarrassment, I mean smash their balls with a rock because of how they butchered Halo, turning a story-driven franchise with iconic characters and masterfully designed, contained combat arenas into a generic, soulless open world with all to do but jog around, dick in hand, waiting for the next mediocre combat encounter. The game is in dire need of some well-deserved attention, and we just need to provide Jason with enough crack cocaine so he could finally finish the game before the sun explodes. Unlike Cyberpunk 2077 on release, it actually works. And like Cyberpunk 2077 now, it's actually awesome. Watching people from the shadows is just as satisfying as in real life. You play as Samantha Fisher, a man in his 60s that moves like a gorilla on crack cocaine and survives this. Seriously, this man climbs poles better than most strippers I've seen, which amounts to zero because this is a family-friendly channel. If I could move like this guy, chasing women would be so much easier. Sam is a highly decorated Navy SEAL and a former CIA operative, as well as a hardened veteran, having survived 4 Ubisoft releases before getting and becoming a hobo in Conviction, then pulled out of his retirement home in Blacklist to be further abused by the company. After literally zero effort, the 4th echelon learns about the engineer's plans.
1 new attack every 7 days.
and is given a few days to stop them, conveniently with a timer counting down the exact seconds to their next move, so that we can time our arrival mere minutes before they execute their attacks. By the way, who the hell is funding this guy? This has to be a sequel to Manhunt or something, because there's somebody watching and ranking you based on how effectively you murdered your enemies. Feels kind of twisted when you think about it. Charlie's missions are essentially survival mode. The enemies survive against you. They say you can knock enemies out instead of killing them, but honestly, the last time I checked, I'm not playing as the Dalai Lama here, so this international terrorist is getting mech dumped whether he believes in karma or not. Maybe he'll be reincarnated as a dog if he was a good person, a dog in China if he was evil. Grim Probable gives you trials to test the extent of your sanity and see how far you can go before succumbing to madness. These missions fail every time you get detected, so you need to be pretty high on the autistic spectrum to succeed. Or just turn off that and play something else that's fun instead of wasting your life away staring at virtual ass. Being a creep in real life is so much more satisfying. Unlike in Fallout 4, there's a sense of cohesion between the systems that make transitioning from hit and run to flash and bang smooth and enjoyable. This also minimizes the need to save scum, as being detected is not the end of the world. Just means that you suck at video games. You're ranked huge balls if you play the game the way it's meant to be played. Genocide. Because if nobody's alive, then there's no one to detect you. True stealth. And people who play the game like Call of Duty are ranked gigantic balls because COD players have all slept with your mom at some point. But seriously, who the hell plays the game that way? Right? This is a stealth game. Have some standard for yourself. Degenerate? Take a shower. Though published 10 years ago, a sad and scary notion to think about, the graphics in Blacklist still holds up great. You're gonna be hearing this anxiety-inducing sound a lot. It was from this very franchise that I learned how to stalk women at night. These games achieved two monumental feats. The first one is teaching future serial killers that you make less noise when you crouch walk. Developed by Irrational Games and published by the totally ethical and not at all evil company 2K. The game was released on PC, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 in 2013, the year when the two words twerk and selfie were added to the dictionary. Truly the decline of humanity. Yep, it's America in the 18th century, back when racism was the most degenerate thing we have, instead of misogynistic alpha male podcasts.
Who gives a fuck about a woman's orgasm? It's useless. And when women lose sexual leverage, guess what? They have no power, because that's their only fucking power.
You play as Booker DeWitt, an ironically witless war veteran who immediately blows his cover the millisecond he steps onto enemy's territory by publicly assaulting multiple police officers. The brain damage from the war must have been severe, since my man can't seem to comprehend the simplest of instructions.
Sciences.
What the?
Telegram.
Do not pick number 77. 77.
Wait! It's him!
False shepherd?
At least wrap a cloth around that bitch. Put on a glove or something. What in the world? Instead, Booker shoves a whole ass hook in this motherfucker's face and homicides his entire family. Quite the cautionary tale for brain damage, isn't it? So go get that checked. So after your way through half the population of Colombia searching for this girl Elizabeth, Booker finally arrives in a tower in which Elizabeth is kept. You get what I mean when you get to the ending of Infinite. It's like watching Tenet upside down, in reverse, with brain damage. The magic system is just begging on his knees with his hair pulled back in a tight bun for experimentations, which is also disappointing since you can't create combos with your magic. Vigors, as referred to in Colombia.
Vigor.
And since you only have 14 weapons and 8 vigors, it feels like a criminal, international terrorism waste of opportunity to not include a combo system. Children from the art team as Irrational must have really missed their dads. Cause looking at the city, I'd be surprised if these devs are even allowed to see the sun. Mild spoiler ahead, you arrive here after you Elizabeth, her from and telling her you can show her good time in Paris if she opens her and you in return. Have you ever wondered what hell sounds like? Well, I was until I replayed this fucking game. Depriving children of their fatherly figures has never felt so satisfying. When it makes itself present, it sounds good, especially this track. Gets the blood pumping, adding this to my Chasing Women at Night playlist. Oh my god. My head. Oh. Hey guys. What the hell happened to my head? I'm us from the future. Oh, well, you're my future, which I went back to. Now I'm leaving back to the future. Just trust me, right? In a few minutes, we from the future will be meeting you to explain the situation. Must be the brain damage. I know it's confusing, but we have a video which you haven't made yet, explaining the whole timeline, in the future. I mean, yeah, whatever, yeah. Look, I really can't stay. Just, watch the video, okay? He'll explain everything. Hey, wait! No! He's gone. Well, I guess we're gonna have to watch the video now. Never doing math again. The Bunker was released on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series S. Whoa. One of these can be real. Who the hell came up with these freaking names, by the way? There's no system at all. First, they didn't go with the degree stuff because they didn't want their fifth console to be named Xbox 5760. Then they gave up on Xbox 1, 2, 3 because it sounds too much like PlayStation, I guess. Now we have this parcel tongue situation here that makes less sense than my reviews. Amnesia the Bunker was generally favored upon its release on June 6, 2023, the same day as Diablo 4, which is also a game where you are stuck in an endless circle of purgatory, desperately scavenging for items to survive while being chased by a demon, the existential crisis demon, which makes you realize that you are endlessly grinding away to make virtual numbers go higher instead of spending precious time on this earth being around your family and the people you love. The review from IGN criticized the monster AI to be mediocre, as if their reviewers are smarter than a vegetable. Frictional Games had to make some sacrifices to the narrative, prioritizing gameplay over story, which explains why the storyline of Amnesia the Bunker is like my father, vaguely present. You play as Henry Clement, or Henri Clement because you're French. Was that racist? Henri is a soldier serving World War I. Side note, this is such an amazing setting that rarely gets explored in video games. I didn't mean it in a sense that it was a good thing that happened, I mean like just imagine the crazy scenarios that could and have happened during the war would translate really well into video games form. Now this might sound crazy, but hear me out, okay? Nope. What did they have in World War I? Think about it. Horses, right? They were very important. So I'm thinking horse racing game. Just imagine what a homeless man in a fever dream would yell at you while he's on LSD, and you'd have a pretty clear picture of the plot. Admittedly, there's a bit more to it than that. You have notes scattered everywhere around the bunker that read like a depressed teenager's diary.
I'm in a state of agony. It cripples my body, captures my mind, bleeds my soul. These fools around me, laughing, drinking, arguing. Do they know what I've done? God knows what I've done.
The game is really good at creating anxiety with every single one of its mechanics. In my subjective opinion, the devs at Frictional Games have mastered the art of etching. The devs at Frictional Games have mastered the art of constantly keeping you on edge, questioning every move you make. The gameplay perfectly captures the feeling of hiding from your dad's belt. Similar to Discord mod's Fear of Deodorant, the monster chasing you is afraid of light, and the lights in the bunker are powered by fuel, which is extremely limited. So you have to constantly worry about finding cans of gas as you explore around the place. Yep, is a hardened World War I soldier that is able to survive gunshot wounds, artillery fire, and living with a bunch of French people, but turns into Joe Biden as soon as he has to reload the gun. Yeah, needless to say, this revolver mechanic alone created some pantaloon-defiling situations that made my panic attack ass had to pause the game and go touch grass. I would argue that giving you a gun actually increases the fear factor, because being chased by something that can be killed by bullets and even grenades is 10 times scarier than being chased by some dyslexic chick that you can just whack with a wooden plank lying around. The floaty controls is also the main cause of frustration, the second being crack fiend Quasimodo here. The beast in the bunker marker behaves in a similar manner. This results in a foreboding atmosphere full of dread because you never know for sure where the monster is until it's too late, and you find yourself waking up in the middle of a car ride home after a romantic date, but the driver is Sam Solek and the address is 69 Phallic Street, Pound Town, and you don't remember giving consent. Between the generator mechanic, your flashlight, the Alibaba revolver, and Bell Stockholm Syndrome. Bell Stockholm Syndrome, the gameplay loop is like a circular human centipede that feeds into itself, keeping your anxiety dialed up to 11. In my experience, my purple experience with this game, the first 2 hours were the most scared I've ever felt consuming a media product. And this is saying something because I watched the entirety of Cats without trying to gouge my eyes out even once. Enough to give you heart palpitation from sheer paranoia when you hear the noise the monster makes when it's in your general vicinity. My season is pain, fucking end me! Unexpectedly loud and an assault on your hearing perfectly describes the revolver and hand grenades, which further add to the sense of immersion of the game. Admittedly, this color palette is more than justified when taking into account the setting of the game. You can't expect Barbie's Funhouse when your childhood friends are getting their legs amputated by hacksaws. I wouldn't necessarily call it mediocre, just perfectly generic. This one exception is the monster design, which truly baffles me, since I haven't the slightest idea how the devs managed to capture exactly how I look in the morning. It's the guy! What? You don't know who I am? You haven't realized after all this time? You know Mandalore Gaming? Yeah, I'm not him. The PC version of Dead Space 3 was originally exclusive to EA's Origins launcher, but this lapse in judgment was corrected when they decided to launch the game on Steam on June 18th, 2020. 7 years later, after the studio had already been murdered, its carcass used to stuff dirty yacht money for Andrew Wilson. Unreasonable demands were made and preventable stress was placed upon Visceral Games to somehow turn people who aren't fans of horror games into mindless sims, rivaling those of Twitch Girls fans. This led to a tumultuous development process that led to a war between the developers at Visceral Games and the executives at You play as this dude, whose name Steve Papus is Paul Mathis. What a long name. I refer to him as Steve. Never mind, he dies immediately. You play as this dude.
And when I see babies in a stroller, I just want to put my foot through the fucking thing and step on it until it's nothing but blood and pulp on the fucking pavement!
Isaac Newton is an engineer living in seclusion on some random planet because the lobotomy session in the previous game gave him severe brain damage. Now he keeps hallucinating videos of gay furry porn. What a lightweight, am I right? I have daily lobotomy sessions and I'm still fine. Though I enjoy cartoons a lot more now. The game begins with Dr. Love Triangle and Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit breaking into your apartment and recruiting you to find Ellie, who literally went to space to ghost Dr. Triangle, but he just couldn't take a hint. You then shoot your way through the city, fighting against soldiers working for a group called the Inner Circle, who hire this guy that just randomly blows himself up. Kind of a this guy. But the leader bad guy must have had the same lobotomy doctor, because only after he sat there waiting patiently for Isaac to come and look at the giant marker did he execute his plan. Naturally, you escape thanks to the armor given to you by the plot. Right off the bat, just like the food in MasterChef, the beginning of the game makes me feel like Gordon Ramsay, disappointed with a bad taste in my mouth. The only characterization we have is for this guy, who had to have won some award for the most annoying NPC ever.
Hey, you wanted an engine? Here you go.
It'll do.
It's shit. Just like our plan.
You think you can handle it from here?
Yeah, Clark. I'm not an idiot.
Luckily, he dies horrifically, and this is how Isaac reacts to finding his mangled corpse. The only person that's worth noticing is Soldier Nick Balls here, who magically appears whenever you are in an important cutscene, just like I will appear in the dark corners of your room as you turn off the light to sleep if you don't like and subscribe. Carver, as mentioned before, is an important character because he essentially replaces an entire narrative that the team had crafted to emphasize the deteriorating mental state of Isaac. It is reported that in the initial storyline, Isaac's autism is so advanced that he manifested a whole-ass being unironically named Shadow Isaac, who would act as a companion as well as a co-op partner. This would have made a lot of sense in the cutscenes since an imaginary murder buddy can just appear out of nowhere. But instead, EA in the infinite wisdom didn't want psychosis and dementia as central themes for the game. As soon as the game starts, you can already tell that any resemblance of horror had suffered enough and had dove out the windows headfirst before it was offered to appear in this game. Посмотри, это такая страшная игра.
Limitless energy for ourselves.
The game doesn't even pretend to care about horror or suspense. The guy from RoboCop pops out of some glory hole and the orchestra immediately has a seizure. I gotta say though, I'm not gay, but the game sure makes me feel like I am, because the other 20% of the time, the game just straight up spawns enemies behind your ass to clap your cheeks. Can we fucking stop with this shit? It just feels like a cheap way to artificially increase the difficulty, which is lower than the point of life I'm in right now. This ain't Amnesia the Bunker. You're not some pathetic soy boy cowering in fear behind a door. You are the Isaac Newton.
U.S. Court, Isaac Clarke.
Men, women, children, animal, the disabled, you don't discriminate, you dominate. They f around, they find out. You want the vanilla experience? Pimp that broke ass secondhand cutting tool up. Now you're fisting instead of fingering. You like cooking? I got you, fam. Hook that shit up with a whole ass oven. Look at me. I'm the menace now. Call me American Airlines because I'm about to blow. You buy Call of Duty every single year and it's also boring? No worries, you got a trusty mini Uzi or the channel might be dead before my videos get monetized. You know how YouTube is. Which is why I'm in the process of setting up a Patreon where you guys can support me. I'll tell you guys that in a later video. There are so many combinations that you can come up with. In my subjective opinion, this is the best thing Dead Space 3 has to offer. It gives you some goal to work towards, as well as incentivizing exploration, as well as corpse mutilation, which is made possible by the corpse stomp feature, which is one of my favorite activities. You know, only loot don't shoot out of people, no matter how hard I put my foot through. It's been a long time since I played a Dead Space game, so I can't make any meaningful comparison to the previous ones. But from all the stomping, panting, banging, penetrating I've heard during the 15 hours campaign, I can safely say that the game sounds as gross as ever. Butchering enemies has never been more satisfying, with the wet sloshing of splattering gore shooting from the mutilated corpses that were once human beings, along with the crunching of bones as you put your foot through the enemies' mangled faces. Similar to drugs, there's nothing wrong with the music itself. It's the abuse and over-reliance that caused the problem. Art director Alice Muscat stated that he wanted the player to feel fear, loneliness, and hopelessness as they explore the environment, which would be impossible with a co-op partner making hand puppets with enemy corpses. What the you're thinking, hey? This direction in design leads to GigaChat Patrick O'Keefe, who taken inspiration from cosmic horror concepts from H.P. Lovecraft, The Thing, and various other sources, coming up with concepts for the hazardous yet beautiful frozen planet of Tall Volantis. This is the reason why the camera angle that's shoved all the way up your ass doesn't work. It's hard to see anything when your ass takes up half the screen, does it? You can't really appreciate the sense of scale because it's difficult to compare Isaac to the supposedly giant things shown on screen. Other than that, everything looks great. The necromorphs still look like your girlfriend without makeup, and characters' models still look like melted plastic dolls. If the first Dead Space is Alien, with its laser focus on atmospheric, suspenseful horror that gets under your skin, making you feel vulnerable with each step you take, and the second game is Aliens, where focus was shifted to white-knuckle, adrenaline-pumping action sequences, then Dead Space 3 is somewhat akin to the aborted fetuses in Alien Resurrection, a writhing, malformed creature under constant torment, whose painful existence was the result of unethical decisions of an evil, greedy company, EA. I mean, Wayland Yutani. I think Dead Space 3 is a good game, not a good Dead Space game, mind you. Maybe because I'm easily pleased and not cynical for the sake of getting clicks, unlike AIDS. I like some positivity in my life, you know what I mean? See, the team as Visceral was strongly against the decision to turn their crafting system into a microtransaction hellscape, as opposed to the wishes of EA, whose priority at the time was to increase sales by following gaming trends. This would lead to big clashes between the dev team and who made multiple requests and consistently kept on pushing to have microtransactions be included. How are you supposed to feel any sense of fear and tension when you can just, buy your way out of the danger? Yeah, who needs careful resource management in your survival horror game, right? Anything is possible as long as your credit card is big enough and your brain damage severe enough. And resources can be mined using the drone. These digital resources in the game could also be purchased using real money as part of an IQ test to see how f***ing stupid you are. And I don't mean no disrespect towards the game developers or Ben Wanat here, but he was only the art designer for the Necromorphs as well as the background lore writer before becoming the director for Dead Space 3. So letting him direct the game that was essentially the game that held the fate of the entire franchise in his claws feels like letting an artist command a modern army. And we all know how that turned out. I just finished doing my research on the Suicide Squad video. And I gotta say, it makes me feel like Suicide Squad. God damn, it took away my 10 years of my lifespan figuring out how to fix this freaking piece of garbage over here. And people have judged the game based on a 3 minutes trailer or review. So bear with me, okay? And shut the f*** up. I wasn't gonna make a video talking about this game, but it's such an abomination against entertainment that I have to make a video about this. I have to give some praise to the devs here. This is what I call truly inclusive UI design. Because whether you're a child, colorblind, or even freaking lobotomized, you can still play this game. You still look at the pretty colors and giant arrows pointing you in a direction and not have to use your freaking brain. Right, so let's, for example, look at a game like Dead Space 3, which I made a video about and you should go check out. It flops pretty hard. But Dead Space, we all know that the HUD geniuses at Visceral Games designed the HUD to be a part of the rig on your body, right? So every time you look at the HUD, Isaac himself is looking at the rig on his suit. So it makes the game feel it makes the game feels less gamey. You know what I mean? Makes you feel like you're in the game itself, right? What's the word for that? Tangible. Thank you. You see? And go to the option menu, turn off the floating numbers, alright? Just looking at this shit makes me wanna f***ing punch my and I'm pretty sure the game was designed around the loot boxes, mechanics, and also, it's trying to siphon the f*** out of your money or your children. Right, what do you expect, A good game? First things first, get rid of Captain Boomerang, please. He's just the manifestation of cringe. 5% less of an asshole would go a freaking long way. Instead, here we have him literally pissing on the corpse of the Flash, man. I know you have an IQ of an unborn child, right? But at least this man, the Flash, is a hero. He saved the world from multiple dimensional threats. Without him or the Justice League, you're gonna be, Darkseid's blow-up doll. So, show the man some respect. If you want to kill them, just do it in some spectacular, mind-blowing way. Or better yet, have that man be the mentor for the squad. And if you want to kill him off, you can do it like heroic sacrifice, like he knows that he cannot do anything else anymore. So he just sacrificed himself, luring the enemies away for you to kill Brainiac. Or detonate a kryptonite bomb vest, to kill Superman. I don't know, right? Shove a grenade up his ass and hug Brainiac. Anything but f***ing good. Though not official, information gathered from inside sources indicated that Epic Games Store was operating under the motto, "You can't distribute games if there aren't any games to distribute. Fuck you." Judging from the store's competitive strategy, which seemed to be gobbling up indie devs like Nikocado Avocado gobbling up amounts of food that can end starvation in Africa, paying incredibly large sums of money to small studios, with the catch being those studios becoming their bondage gimp, having to release their games early or exclusively on the EGS platform. I say this is in line with the motto. And as to the validity of the inside sources, I can neither confirm nor deny because I made them up. And I'm genuinely curious, what is your favorite roguelike or roguelikes? Whatever. Comment down below. Or just comment anything. I'm so lonely. It's not like I'm gonna find out where you live from the comment section, right? Dark, brutal, hopeless, and depressing, where your mere existence is endless torment. As to survive means you have to engage in constant battles with invisible forces slowly siphoning your life force and taking control of your bodily autonomy, all the while struggle to maintain your slowly deteriorating mental state. These are the words I would use to describe the world that we live in. The reality that you are faced with in the world of Darkest Dungeon is even worse. As you arrive at the hamlet, the small town where the manor is located, you start to encounter otherworldly atrocities and indescribable eldritch abominations, such as your average Londoner, the local LA man, my neighbor, and his wife. Your ancestor went in too deep and spread too wide. In his search, he unknowingly discovered knowledge most forbidden, fetishes most depraved. As he caught glimpse of the source of wisdom, images flashed before his eyes. First, it was armpits, then scat. Once he discovered quad amputee porn, it was all over. Driven mad upon learning how far mankind would go and how much sanity they're willing to sacrifice just to feel horny, your ancestor became the Heart of Darkness, dooming himself and the world in the process. Right, so with the recap out of the way, I hope you guys are enjoying the ride. The ride you've been taken for, because the story of the second game has all to do with the first one. Well, to say the stories are mutually exclusive would be lying, as the happenstance in both games came about as a result of some dumbasses who stuck their dicks where they shouldn't. Only in this game is your dick that felt the vibe check. But upon sacrificing your mentor, whose diet consists of 2 pounds of gravel and 3 packs of cigarette per meal.
And you drizzle a little caramel sauce on that. Whoa, it's a great pick-me-up.
It is a travesty, a blundering mountain of hatred.
Now, while we're on the subject of citrus
and travesty,
you were finally able to get your filthy, traitorous claws on the crown, only for it to unleash your twisted and depraved thoughts into the world. Fed up with how much of a little bitch you are, your mentor literally wills himself back to life, kicks down the door, and tasks you with defeating the evil that plagues the land, redeeming yourself in the process. LobotomizeGang, tremble as 10 of you guys who comments the most gets thrown into the meat grinder. On the first expedition, we have Memento Mori as the duelist, a complex but very high damage hero, able to give dick almost as well as she takes him. Nick Volkov will be our highwayman, as banditry is the typical Slav's favorite leisure activity. Acting as our tank is Fragile Bitch, who is this absolute unit of a man here, because irony equals funny. And finally, Emily Was Here is the Plague Doctor, who shall stand all the way in the back, far away from everybody, because women are gross. Not even 5 minutes in and we are ambushed by crack fiends from the dens of Detroit. As Memento Mori makes the first strike, Nick, taken by surprise, stands there dumbfounded, confused by the fucking hieroglyphics on the screen, which symbolize buffs obtained from your hero's skills and debuffs given to you by the enemies. The shot breaks down his defense, putting him in a weakened state. Seizing this opportunity, Emily throws her gamer girl fart at him, poisoning the monster in the process. But just before it goes down, the giant monster lands a devastating swipe on Memento, opening a gaping wound that caused bleeding. The shambling undead were no less dangerous, biting and clawing at Fragile, who valiantly withstands the assault, shielding the team from the damage. As if in retaliation for the pain she received, Memento delivers the final strikes, putting down the undead for good. And when somebody got shanked real badly, Emily would heal them up with her gamer girl bath water, which is all she was good for, because anytime she had to get her hands dirty and actually fight, she failed spectacularly. Women Am I right, fellas? Upon reaching one of these holy shrines, Memento had a flashback about her emo phase. It was through these memories that the hero found herself recalling skills learned but long forgotten. And as we journey on, the others would do the same, acquiring new techniques and strengthening themselves in the process. Ambush! The world quakes as unseen forces hurl cracked rocks and meth needles at us, destroying our carriage, leaving us no choice but to stop and repair it if we are to continue onwards. And adding to our horror, the ambushers, your stepmom and her boyfriend, approach the carriage, one of whom delivers a devastating strike at Fragile, who collapses under the blow. We fixed the Lobotomobile, then made a quick escape, hoping to get out of the city as soon as possible. But like a dog who dreams of not being eaten by a hungry Chinese man, this was wishful thinking. Not even 3 minutes later, we were met with a blockade, where the gang faced our most terrifying enemy yet. A plank of wood. Anytime the soldiers thrust at Nick, Fragile would take the dig, allowing the highwaymen to retaliate. Emily would occasionally flash the enemies with her stick-like figure, making them go blind and giving Memento ample opportunity to carve them up. Utilizing this tactic, we thankfully escape from the sprawl and make it to the next inn. As if it was the calm before the storm, the gang spent long stretches in relative peace, dealing with nothing save for the occasional bumps in the road. Of course, we still encountered bandits, but they soon found out that robbing a carriage called the Lobotomobile, housing 4 paranoid schizophrenics, was not exactly the best decision to make. On top of that, we even found some totally unguarded treasures just left there on the side of the road in the middle of the forest. Pillaged from the armies that once roamed this land, the bandits have commandeered for themselves a giant cannon. Its capability for destruction unheard of. Emily being a scientist, the squad tasked her with the repairs, Fragile protecting her from the enemy's assault. However, this would prove to be a huge mistake, as no matter how hard he tried, Fragile couldn't fully shield Emily from the sheer force of the cannon's blast. What the f were they thinking? There was no way. Another critical hit as Nick surges forward and executes the remaining bandit, dropping him on the spot. As if on cue, the earth quakes as the second shot from the cannon almost cost Nick and Memento their lives. The highwayman, unable to face the reality of death, suffers from a mental breakdown which greatly demoralized the whole squad. Desperate, the gang turns savage, striking with abandonment, throwing everything we've got at the hulking machine, knowing that failure means certain death. Memento, in a moment of hopelessness, thinking she might as well be gone, makes a lunging attack that puts her in front of everybody, using her own body to block the next shot, which brings the duelist to death's door. Not willing to let his sister-in-arms sacrifice herself so easily, Fragile puts all of the strength he has left into one last strike that sends him hurling towards the cannon, putting a dent in the machine, but not enough to destroy it. At this point, it all falls down to Emily. If she doesn't do something now, the cannon will take its shot and we will face certain doom. Yes! Yeah, baby! Emily! As we are about to reach the inn, the road is blocked by a watchtower from which emerged Optimus Prime, who then proceed to absolutely decimate Fragile and Memento in one single attack, wounding them in the process. Imbued with ancient pagan magic, the sentient armor shrugs off everything we throw at it and dishes out punishment tenfold. On the brink of death, Fragile struggles to deliver one last strike, only for it to barely scratch the armor. Witnessing his death, Emily has a meltdown, which brings her health from full down to almost zero. What the f***? And as the gang focuses their attacks on the armor, Nick finally succumbs to his bleeding and draws his last breath. But not before landing a hit that brought the thing to his knees. Memento soon shares Nick's fate, battered to death by the malevolent skeletal priest. And it is in this very moment of despair that Emily stands resolute. She regains most of her health back and proceeds to carve her way through the remaining enemies using her knife. Backed against the corner and panicking, the evil priest resurrects his fallen companion. Unknowingly, he had just turned his murder into a double homicide. Looks like all that time in the kitchen finally paid off. Surviving the ordeal, Emily retreats back to safety to fight another day, abandoning the expedition. And before we move on to the second expedition, let's take a look at the auditory hallucinations are some of the many symptoms of schizophrenia. You guys know that?
Many fall in the face of chaos, but not this one. Not today. Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all.
Now tell me you don't want to have a rocky training montage right at that moment. Now tell me you don't feel that urge to change your life at 3 a.m. Now tell me you don't feel like having a New Year resolution which you will abandon 2 days into January? Similar to the voices inside my head, the narrator cheers you on every time you land a critical hit and makes you feel like a pathetic loser when you choose to focus on the tank instead of on the monster constantly healing him from behind. And unlike the voices in my head, he doesn't tell you to go kill yourself.
You are worthless. You serve no purpose in life. Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose. You should kill yourself now.
I hope you guys are ready because it's time for our second expedition. I can win this game. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I gotta get the second run, baby. On the front line, Stan will serve as the leopard, a depressed Chad who blocks hits with his bulging pectoral muscles. Why is he depressed, you ask? Check the comment in my amnesia video. Second in line is Red Dart, the runaway. We then have David Vega as the jester, a mobile hero that specializes in buffs and psychological warfare, which must be true based on the number of emojis he uses. Hey, I'm not hating, I'm just saying. Please don't subscribe. And finally, there's Fordine. Damn man, where'd you come from? Mars? He's the occultist because you know, his name is already an eldritch incantation. The BMF set out to avenge our fallen heroes. Golly, I sure hope we don't get a critical hit and die instantly in the boss fight. Maybe it was from prior experience, or perhaps the fear of repeating failures past. The BMFs blitz through the tangle with ease, and the weakened foes can be set aflame by Red Dart, who, funded by the US government, is equipped with portable napalm that spreads to other enemies faster than gonorrhea in World War I. Stan is so bricked up, his body so hard, his abs so chiseled that nothing could pierce through, including the spikes. And when enemies finally realized, they started to focus on David, greatly wounding him. Fordine, sensing trouble, healed the jester for a staggering 0 HP. Wow. The occultist conjured eldritch hentai tentacles to pull them to the front, disrupting their formation. And you guys remember the giant suit of armor that battered the out of our team the last time? Bitch stood no chance. See, in addition to feeling depressed, Stan also feels no pain and has the ability to taunt the enemies. Coupled with Fardine's ability to reduce enemies' damage, the monsters could barely do anything. Just look at this. Look! Fardine, what the did you do to him, man? However, this was not an easy fight. The armor was no dumb brute. As it was about to go down, David, eager in his assault, tried to quickly dispatch the monster. Unbeknownst to him, it was a farce. Upon feeling David's attack on his plate, the suit quickly sprung up and folded him like a lawn chair. But just as he was about to be sent to the Shadow Realm, the man, the myth, the Martian legend Fordine performed a healing spell on David, this time for 28 28 HP! Боже мой, Dios mío. Nothing, bar none, nothing in the cursed forest could stop us. With Red Dart's pyrotechnics and the enemies being literal walking plants and bushes, it felt like Nam over again. What do you get when you combine a man who contracted syphilis from molesting diseased prostitutes with a skill that forces enemies to attack him, along with a trinket that heals him when he resists damage? Well, see for yourself. Pair that with a David Red Dart 1-2 combo, there was nothing that could come close to bearing even the remotest resemblance of a chance. On your travels, your heroes would talk amongst themselves, form relationships, and develop feelings for each other. Feelings such as hateful, fuck, suspicious, merda, revengeful, blech. You see? This game is fucking great. It's fucking great, man. Right before facing the fucking boss, Chen, David, and Red Dart form a hate triangle. With the gang in complete disarray, we traverse the mountain to face
Pity the great denier.
Surprisingly, the battle's going great. Both sides exchange blows, but it seems that we hold the advantage. A single critical hit immediately brings Red Dart's health down to 0, putting her on death's door. Another strike follows, finishing her off for good. Ah! At this point, everybody starts to panic. Attack after attack, each one demoralizes the entire squad. Chen, unable to weather the brutal assault, breaks down and succumbs to his grievous wounds. Avenging the leper's death, David swiftly delivers a blow to destroy one of the shackles. In retaliation, a vicious strike brings Dean to death's door. On the brink of death and faced with an impossible choice, the bleeding and weakened Dean decides to use all that he has left to heal David to full health instead of himself, making the ultimate sacrifice. David, bolstered and rejuvenated, now heroically faces the remaining shackles. Hate this game, and like a nagging wife in the 1920s, a swift backhand, a 1-2 combo, and brute force is the quickest way to deal with a second problem. In order to develop a game on an entirely new engine, the studio knew they needed more help and more resources to throw into the flesh grinder. This time, assemble the fucking squad! Emily, surgeon with a 1.0 KD ratio. AA Ron Balake, more like Aaron Blake. Stuart Dondenstein will be our religious Dutch useless. And finally, leading the gang is me, in a dimension where I didn't take Crocodile, but Flaka instead. Let's go! This time, with undeterred focus and streamlined efficiency, we murdered our way through the myriad of freaks and abominations, leaving nothing but devastation in our path. Sheridan gives me 50% damage reduction while I use the ability to taunt the enemies and heal back the damage taken tenfold. You see, similar to in real life. I am f***ing crazy. The more hits I take, the more artistic I become. And if you dare trust me out, I become toxic and gaslight you. Death's door, 90% resistance. Bitch. I've been etching for too long. You can kill me, only I kill myself. Ella está sufriendo demasiado daño. ¡Corre la puta! Pero aún no he terminado. Mira! We find Misstep, which gives 75% more health. Upon equipping this trinket, I become 3 times as healthy as the average woman and twice as crazy. We have gone from a great run to a crack cocaine run. With violent, murderous intent, we meticulously proceed to systematically dismantle the boss, maliciously obliterating the shackles with utmost contempt. We don't just seek to dominate, we seek to humiliate. For we are not humane. Woo! I love this game! And as AA Ron Balake delivers the final blow on the last remaining shackle, we, the LobotomizeGang, the BMFs, the Purple Experience, have finally managed to defeat the first boss of the game.
I'm tired, boss.
even though I haven't personally played the game yet, due to the fact that I'm poor as and don't have a console. Judging from the video essays and material I've sifted through in my research for this review, you can find many, shall we say, inspired interpretations of the monsters from the Cthulhu mythos. Of course, being accurate when drawing something said to be undescribable, imperceptible, incomprehensible is almost as difficult as convincing a radical feminist to do some actual research, which is impossible. Aesthetically speaking, everything the game has to offer is just perfect, dare I say. Lit AF. Even a f***ing collar that turns people into Lil Uzi Vert. Look no further than the first Darkest Dungeon, because most of them aren't in the second game. These monsters range from shapeless mounds of flesh and teeth, COVID, James Corden, literal death himself, to your reflection in the mirror. So should you play the game? Well, I have two questions for you. Question number one, are you brain damaged? And question number two, is your IQ lower than your age? And if you answer no to both questions, then get the f*** out. And for any of you that's left, welcome to the LobotomizeGang. Now, for all the true LobotomizeGang viewers who are deranged enough to make it this far into the video in search of the hidden message, let me put those ambitions to rest. For the message you seek isn't here. It is in this video, but not this part of the video. In fact, it has been right in front of you all along, but only in your infinite hubris that you discarded it, treating it nothing but an ill-fated attempt at humor, a desperate grasp at attention that yielded mediocre result. Mọi người không tin hả? Không tin, kiểm tra đi, xem lại video đi, ngay từ cái câu đầu tiên mà tôi nói. Check it again, LobotomizeGang. What is up, LobotomizeGang is the guy. You know, is the monkey in nice pants and interesting neckties. Is the monkey in nice pants and interesting neckties. Is the monkey in nice pants and interesting neckties. This is Brett. Brett pre-orders video games after watching the cinematic reveal trailer. He deserves to get bullied. See you looking at. Brett is defending Dragon's Dogma 2's microtransactions and saying that the hate is rage bait. So we're thinking maybe we do a little prank on him. No, don't do that. No, wait, no, don't do that. No. Why not? Daddy, more, Daddy. Fuck away from me. Needless to say, I haven't bought this game because I have half a brain, and despite my masochistic tendencies, being stepped on by Capcom is not my idea of a fun time. You know what I mean? You know, changing your character's face, right? Change the height, the hair, the face paint, the tattoos, you know, the thing you get for free in virtually every single fucking RPG role-playing game ever. And maybe you can do that in this game as well, right? But just because it's there and it's optional doesn't mean it's not a problem. Both Capcom and the development studio must have worked in harmonious union to conjure forth such an abortion-worthy piece of media. You have to pay for fast travel. And then you can pay to buy a key to get out of jail. But what the f***? What if you know, some f***ing whales and they hear, oh, you have to pay to fast travel? I don't have time to grind. Might as well, you know, f***ing pay out for that. Yeah, so you pay the money to not play the game, to not go and explore the world that the devs spend so much time crafting, right? So Capcom, what the f***? Что в этом черепе, huh? Look at Call of Duty. The game feels like Fortnite, right? You have characters with all kinds of colors running around. Nicki Minaj. Now you have freaking Looney Tunes running around, right? You know, saying catchphrases. Yeah. I'm 5'6", but my dick game 6'5". Shout out to my patrons who don't exist.
On this great day without delay, I drop this Hail Mary. Yeah, call this karma. Watch out, bitch, leave you weak and weary. Reach for the stars, psych. They reaching for your money, just like Pompeii. Bitch, you bout to get buried.
12 years cooking, leave me hoping. Coping, came out looking downright joking.
Yeah,
stroking,
yeah.
Need a good roping, you make a joking, croaking. Bitch roll and I'm coding. Rage make game great, they be hating. Bitch thought he gone beyond a good proping. Now I be roasting.
Well, there were microtransactions in Resident Evil and Devil May Cry. Why didn't we hear you complain about it back then, purple guy? Well, child, I was too busy just trying to stay alive.
Now I take flight, watch out my guy, your feeble mind might get fried.
Your dumbass thought you winning. Review copy and snitching. Integrity we losing. Your heart and soul no haggling. Go for a ride behind hell high. Me 10 puppets they making. It's optional just like the heart pounding your girlfriend's taking.
Where do we draw the line?
Consumers pay no mind. You want some more? Fine. $2 when you die. No anti in this cabrón. Hold on to what's not your own. Somehow this shit you condone. Congrats, you just got owned. Album dropping in 31:45. Subscribe. It has come to my attention that the recent video about Dragon's Dogma 2 that I made caused quite a stir. I would like to apologize to everyone for the inauthentic spread of misinformation. In the video, at no point did I say that the microtransactions are mandatory, but it seems like the way that I tried to convey my information was somewhat confusing, and for that, I would like to apologize. I apologize for making you feel confused. In order to remedy this situation, the next time that I make my videos, I will make sure to speak very slowly and dumb my words down to the level of third graders so that everybody, no matter how fucking stupid, can understand. In that video, many comments pointed out that I don't own the game, and thus my opinion on the microtransactions are invalid, and that I should only have an opinion on the microtransactions after I have purchased and completed the entire game. And to that, I would like to say, many people also commented that the problem will go away if we just simply ignore it. Meaning, the microtransactions in the game can be ignored and you can play the game without paying for anything. These people missed the entire point of the fucking video! I am sorry and promise to do better in the future. Thank you. This video is not political. Not. Thank you. It's the guy, you know, the guy who says everything in a serious manner so you don't know whether he's serious or not. I have schizophrenia. Playing Horizon Forbidden West is like watching porn, but for the story. I'm serious. You come for the action, but every few minutes it just cuts to the mailman talking about his feelings and how he's struggling to pay rent. This game, man, this fucking game is a masterpiece at wasting your time before letting you fight giant robot dinosaurs, which only happens between cutscenes, which feature Aloy who's super fucking hot. but the cutscenes are super boring. Developed by PlayStation's in-house slave studios, more specifically Guerrilla and Nixxes Software, whom I'm sure Sony is working to the bone in order to crank out these Oscar-bait titles year after year. Plus, I think companies are making more money from game subscription services than console sales nowadays. Just look at Xbox Game Pass, for example. So it's only wise to move away from the anti-consumerism practice of forcing people to buy a piece of plastic that will eventually become obsolete after 5 years or maybe 10. I wouldn't know, because I'm not a console fanboy and do indeed take regular showers. Back to Forbidden West. You know, they should stop releasing unfinished products and then patch up the your mom-sized holes after vacuuming up your $70 plus DLCs. This practice is somehow considered acceptable by Americans nowadays. How does it long-awaited sequel stack up? Well, like them tofu buildings in China. It looks good enough on the outside, but as soon as you touch it, the whole thing crumbles into dust and smithereens. True to its name, Horizon was forgotten a few weeks after release, and the variety of enemies is nothing to scoff at. Creatures and humans of all shapes and sizes roam the Forbidden West, just waiting for you to disrupt their natural habitat and systematically cause their extinction. In most cases, upping the difficulty would be a bad idea, because enemies just get a health boost to artificially extend the game length. But Forbidden West gives you plenty of tools to experiment with, so more health means you are forced to utilize these tools and actually play the game. The dinos you fight also carry on them resource packs, which are apparently valuable? I couldn't really tell, because the game did a poor job explaining them to me. You know, or maybe they did, but my brain was already in autopilot mode at that point. But I digress. When games like these offer you the ability to perform impromptu colonoscopy by shoving an entire spear up a dinosaur's ass, people tend to ask why they wouldn't just do that all the time. Firstly, ew. Secondly, aside from being a pussy question asked by default preset character creation people,
gang gang. Gang gang.
The valuable resource packs get destroyed when you kill enemies from stealth. There's no other way to get these aside from fighting these monsters mano a mano. And speaking of, this ain't that boring slow-paced tactical shit. This is adrenaline pumping, high intensity, high on the spectrum type shit. This is chopping up a dinosaur with a giant blade made out of its children type shit. Or Sneak can carry 7 weapon types, each with their own unique uses and attack patterns. Before we move on, can we appreciate the effort they're putting into naming these weapons? Like the Blastling, Shredder Gauntlet, and the Suppressor is exactly why I play video games in the first place. The Blastling is a slingshot which you use to shoot energy balls at the enemies. The Shredder Gauntlet? Saw blade boomerang. What kind of were you on, man? And where can I get some? And what is the suppressor, you ask? That is when you press the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. In addition to your 7 weapons, Aloy also has mini rockets strapped to her butt cheeks, because the woman just glides across the screen every time I press the dodge or the slide button, and you can just straight up rip out the dinosaur's body parts and use them as heavy weapons. F***ing metal. And this is undoubtedly the most fun part about this game, right? The combat. But these are spread further apart than your mom's ass cheeks. because of the boring cutscenes and resource gathering. What I'm not trying to say, however, is the game suffers from one of the worst cases of open world titles I've ever seen. You know, the Ubisoft style checklist open world gameplay that wastes your time on unnecessary and call it content. I guess because Aloy is a hunter and that's what hunters do. But you know, if I wanted to feel real tedium and boredom and torture, I could just go back to my real life job. But then I can't hunt people with a bow and arrow, can I? Say what you want to say, but the devs truly made sure that this game is all-inclusive. They have included every mechanic in this game. You got your resource gathering, arbitrary crafting mechanics, useless weapon upgrades, as well as uninteresting collectibles. They even have the boring repetitive side quests with quirky side characters down to a T. Not only do these redundant mechanics waste your time, they also work in harmonious unison to actively make the gameplay worse. Take arrow crafting for example. See, you have to manually craft your arrows in a weapons wheel. So if you run out of arrows in the middle of combat, you have to open the wheel, which slows down the game, killing the pace of the entire battle. You then simply hold a button, then wait a few seconds for the arrows to magically appear in your inventory. There's no animation, no theatrics, it's pointless. And when you have to keep doing this over and over and over again, it becomes baffling how they thought to put this in the game in the first place. It's like the gameplay equivalent of those Andrew Tate shorts. They don't last long, but they waste your time and make your life worse in the long run.
Look up the highest IQs in the world, the first 10, first 20, look them up. Are they men or women?
Highest IQ in the world, literally what comes up. Marilyn von Savant.
Then, all right, cool.
This checklist style of gameplay actually takes away from the experience by reducing the amount of time you spend on fighting robot dinosaurs and allocating that time to traveling around while looking at the ground and holding E. Hot take, video games should stop trying to be movies, okay, Sony? But look at this, look! I recorded 5 hours of footage, right? And 2 of those was spent on staring at these cutscenes of some random NPCs I don't care about, yap about shit I couldn't give less of a f about. 20 minutes was spent on gathering resources, by the way. They try so hard to make you care about these characters that seem to be friends of Aloy before she just straight up abandoned them. But our girl, Aloy herself, doesn't really seem to care about these fucking people. Gotta be a strong and independent woman, am I right? Oh, and speaking of strong and independent woman, regarding the controversy, I can't say it. Regarding the controversy surrounding this game. Say what you want to say, but I'm pretty sure that this game is not woke. Yes, I know. They made Aloy's face bigger to resemble the average woman or something. I couldn't really give much of a damn. And I don't think the average woman looks like a fucking goddess. But maybe that's because I live in Asia and we don't have 40% national obesity rate. Plus the women here all look like them shrivel up catwalk supermodel. Though Aloy's handsome Squidward face does look disproportionate to her tiny stick-like figure. It doesn't detract much from her character design. They went to the effort of rendering Aloy's individual strands of face hair. And a woman traveling for months in the wilderness fighting dinosaurs on a day-to-day basis just to survive would certainly not care about some hair under her arm, right? Plus, Aloy is a bit of an anti-social loner herself, so in theory she wouldn't care much about social norms. So the fact that they chose to cater to the modern beauty standard is the telltale sign that this game is indeed not woke. I rest my case. Or maybe rendering armpit hair would unnecessarily take up resources. But then they could just make a simple texture like in Blue Eye Samurai, so that's no excuse. The point is, how's that red armpit hair mod coming along, huh? Any progress? Look, as far as I'm concerned, if shoving a tongue up somebody's asshole and licking their intestines is okay, then having a little hair under your arms is okay. Okay? What am I talking about? Oh yeah, the game looks great. Phenomenal even. Look, I appreciate the graphical fidelity and photorealism thing they've got going on with AAA games nowadays, but I think Sony is stuck in a perpetual dick measuring contest with nobody at this point, competing to see who has the best graphics. I mean, don't get me wrong, good graphics is cool to look at, but do they have to cram as much visual clutter as possible into every single frame ever? Look at it. Look, it's freaking ridiculous. And I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking at here. Where the fuck am I supposed to go? And of course the devs know that we're not gonna be able to see anything since they highlighted the exact path you have to take with bright yellow paint. And if you somehow miss that, there's a scan button to show you exactly where to go and what to do. I mean, just come on. In Forbidden West, you play as a cursed woman, roaming around a post-apocalyptic tropical wasteland filled with all manners of extremely unique and intriguing creature designs, straight out of the wet dreams of Anthem's concept artist. Remember that game? Well, I do, mostly because of the atrocity that was the gameplay review with fake voice chat. Realistically, you would have heard some racial slur 2 minutes into the video. or a call out akin to the "it's over there." Where? Over there. Her DNA was taken from a woman called Elizabeth with a T, who is the only one that could potentially save the post-apocalyptic Earth that we're on. And it is this woman that brought the curse upon our character. It all started on the occasion of her birth. In a momentous lapse of judgment, Elizabeth made a blunder that would leave unforeseen consequences and lasting trauma on our heroine. In her infinite wisdom, Elizabeth named her Aloy. Aloy. Looking at this list provided by Wikipedia, we can also see that most of these expensive games are on a PS4 and 5. Look, I know it's a joke at this point, but just imagine how many starving African children can be fed with the amount of money Sony is pouring into siphoning wealth and grey matter from overprivileged people with too much money to spend. Was this whole thing an excuse for me to talk about Aloy's armpits hair? Should you play the game? Do whatever the you want, man. You're asking me for your money, right? If you guys watch my videos, I often throw around words like pain, torment, dick and ball torture, but as of today, I'd like to take all of them back. I've learned my lesson. Because you see, Witchfire is true pain. It is also worth noting that some of the developers have experience working on big AAA first-person shooters like the legendary Painkiller and Bulletstorm, but like the mysterious G-Spot which people often talk about, I have yet to find any trace of that. I feel like this is one of those titles that have potential to be a great cult classic. Let's face it, it was never gonna reach the heights of Doom or Call of Duty, but it could be on the same level as Destiny or Remnants, with a loyal fanbase that will defend it like it gave birth to them and pay child support. Many sources cited that these witch hunts were brought about by many reasons, chief of those being refugees, war, discrimination, as well as religion. Unbeknownst to the rest of humanity, however, this is when the first feminist movement was born, when women realized they were capable of actions such as nagging, behaving passively aggressively, and sass. The very least they could do is give us some alternative versions of these weapon types, right? Really think about it. You can't just look at this weapon selection and feel satisfied when you have such an interesting world in which you can absorb the demon semen from the enemies to level up like that guy in Saltburn. So whenever I see a game with great potential but squanders it with mediocrity for the sake of mass market appeal, I cry a little bit. On the inside, of course, because I'm an omega male and is thus not allowed to show any emotion aside from misogyny. As you start the game, you're allowed to pick a prayer. These behave similarly to Dark Souls classes, in the sense that they aren't exactly different from one another. Some stats are higher and you can start out with different weapons, but that's about it. This means eventually all builds can turn out the same. Have you seen the problem here? That's right. Prayers. So I picked this guy, right? Who is said to wield weapons and magic with equal prowess. He also excels at close range combat, which sounds just like my cup of tea. He also has a dumbass looking mask that prevents him from breathing properly because Jesucristo, mira el sistema de resistencia. The stamina system in this game is atrocious. Just take a look at how much stamina it costs when I dash. And this is when I double jump. I'm convinced that I'm just Paul Blart Mall Cop under the mask. See, similar to Olivia, who peaked in high school and is now a Z-Zamzer crack hole on the corner of the street.
I'm Cody, pronouns EM, airs, or Z-Zamzers.
Witchfire doesn't know what it wants to be. You have these guys, right, that can shoot you from afar, and these kangaroo guys that charge at you to occupy space and create pressure. Classic FPS enemy design. This means you have good mobility in order to outmaneuver them, right? Wrong. You can't, because you have the athleticism of a disabled Reddit mod and runs out of stamina every time you jump or dash. And this problem is exacerbated when you use weapons like the shotgun, which I'm sure was made by Dyson because it sucks. Seriously, the shotgun only has 8 shells, but it takes 2 to 3 shots to kill an enemy, even with the barrel shoved directly down their throat. So you switch to your secondary weapons, right? Which takes bullets to kill a single enemy. Could you please kindly play this game and tell me that I'm not crazy, right? Which is not true. Unlike subscribing and liking this video, which is free, Witchfire is $40 on the Epic Games Store as of this review. The ranged yapping aside, I think you should give this game a chance. There are things here that I'm pretty sure people with different tastes than mine can truly appreciate. If you like grindy roguelike games with poorly thought out gameplay mechanics, this might be right up your alley. As I arrived at the spot, I am greeted with this message: requires Gnosis level 1. So I checked the map again and voila! There. You don't see it? There it is. There. Go! Literally they drop you into the map and expect you to grind it out. Ask you a question, do you know what kind of games base their progression system on grinding? Yeah, you got that right. Free to play mobile games. The Warframe does the same thing. Gentlemen, please, it is with the utmost humility and respect that I kindly ask you to shut the f*** up. You can send these letters to your headquarters and ask them to research new weapons, but they must have hired Chick-fil-A employees to manufacture your guns because it takes forever to research a new one. Was it because I ran out of bullets before the boss could die? Or because the minions disabled my ability to dash and jump? Or could it be that the visual effects were so insane that I couldn't even see an enemy even if it farted in my face? These are randomized modifiers that accumulate to turn your overweight asthmatic sloth into Bloodlord Kyriakos Grizzly. If you had paid any attention, I placed a heavy emphasis on randomized because it truly is. The buffs are randomized each time, and whether you get the buff or not is also randomized. You can unlock the third randomized buff as well as randomize the randomized buff using this feather with a randomized drop rate. You see where this is going? I certainly don't, because like I said before, combat encounters are also randomized. How about we move on to something a little bit more positive before tag teaming the final problem, right? Known around the world for its many delights, chief of which are the numerous picturesque sites, Viking legends, meatballs, IKEA, and PewDiePie. Sweden is a country not unfamiliar to many. Unfortunately, in recent years, the escalation and severity of gang violence has gotten to a point beyond the control of the government, whose police force struggles to maintain peace and civility on the blood-soaked streets of the country's once peaceful cities. In 2022, an interview with a gang member referred to as Adam revealed that almost anyone who has resigned to a life of crime would gladly take someone else's life, as the reward greatly outweighs the consequences. Adam stated that each job he takes nets him 1 million Swedish krona, the equivalent of $187,000. For gangsters like him, gun violence is nothing but a business opportunity. In fact, Sweden's gun crime death rate is now the highest in the European Union. It is reported that about 62,000 people are linked to the criminal networks in the country. It is not usual for the average suburban citizen to be awakened by echoing of gunshots throughout the neighborhood. A sound that the developers of Witchfire definitely nailed, because the weapons in this game sound phenomenal. It is the sound effects that truly save the gameplay and take the shooting to the next level. A cool little detail that I like to mention is the breathing sound you make when you are out of breath. Like, take off the damn mask, man! Discount Dr. Doom looking at. You're not him. Forget them witches. Whoever designed that war crime against fashion should be burned at the stake. This game was initially designed as a post-apocalyptic science fiction survival simulator codenamed Astro Project 2. Something that would bear absolutely zero resemblance to the game we're talking about today had it come to fruition. But I like to imagine that the devs looked at the relatively big success of Fallout 4, then let out a collective sigh before silently burning the PCs and laptops while mumbling curses and death threats, and that's how they came up with the idea for Witchfire. The problem with enemies taking an entire business day to die is that at some point, your already limited ammo reserve will run out faster than your patience. What's gonna happen is you finding yourself, dick in hand, stuck in a perpetual cycle of picking up the same number of bullets you used to kill the enemies over and over and over again, questioning why you're putting yourself through this 18th layer of Buddhism hell. And why do we even have this problem anyway? Just make the stamina unlimited outside of combat. You can make enemies drop more ammo on death, you can increase the number of ammo drops on the map, or just get rid of that and have ammo pickup like a normal video game. There's just something about people putting their heart and soul into doing something they are passionate about that gets the blood pumping in all the right places. You know what I'm talking about? But like the crackhole Olivia, even though she's fun to be around, you can't exactly bring her home to your parents. Maybe in the future when she has taken a shower and cleaned up her act. Otherwise, to the void of obscurity you go. If you're wondering why I'm so late on this situation, it is because simple. I've been busy sleeping with a billion women. That's like, and now I'm not young, yeah, right? I don't read tweets for a living, okay? I'm not chronically online. So basically, you have the same things that you have in Edge of Darkness and more, okay? Because it is $250. Look at this. Look at how much stuff you have, man. Am I missing something in here? Where's the dildo that I can shove up my ass in this edition, right? $250, man. The least you can do is give me a free hand job, okay? Where's the dildo, man? Where's the free blowing, huh? The devs have finally officially issued an apology, and I've got to tell you, like any beautiful Latina worth bringing home to your parents, this one comes with a huge but. The only word in this situation that I can think of to describe this apology is pathetic, alright? At this point, I am convinced that they just went outside and picked up the first hobo that they encounter on the street and make him the community manager of the studio, right? Because take a look at this, okay? Pull up the picture. What the hell? Oh my god, I'm sorry. In case my words haven't got through the thick skull of yours and you haven't grasped the severity of the situation, okay? You are essentially forced to pay $250 to experience the full game, right? Is that something you want to do, huh? Even a game as good as Rainbow Six Siege, right? Rainbow Six Siege, arguably one of the biggest FPS video games on the planet at this moment. They don't have the audacity to spit in your face, slap in your face, and insult your mama, right? And expect you to say thank you, like the devs of Escape from Tarkov, okay? If you are in a country that is unable to make an account for Sony, sucks to be you, pal. You can stop playing the game. What? You pay $50-$60 for the game and you expect to play it? What the f- What do you think? Are you fucking insane? Man. Are you delusional, man? Man, what do you think we are, huh? We're living on Earth, right? It's the 21st century. Respect? As you can see from the title of this video, right? They think of us as subhumans, right? As idiots, idioti. They have that up as something new, something special. They will enable strategies never seen before, new experiences, right? And I bought into that, right? I bought into that! They had their arms so far up my ass that they might as well control me like a meat puppet. Man, you know, at least you can do is give me a handwritten insult from the CEO of Ubisoft. At least you can have him come to your house and, you know, verbally insult you in your face. Something you need to know about me is that despite making a bunch of videos on it, I tend to avoid the roguelike genre like the plague. You know, games that base their premise on being infinite and endlessly replayable just don't jive well with me. I like my games how I like my women. Beatable. If I had to, I would use the word touchy to describe these games because they stir up my insides and make me feel things in places where I shouldn't. But I gotta say, in today's gaming landscape, wearing the early access tag can sometimes mean a game is immune to any criticism no matter how valid. As pointing out any flaws means you are met with, but it's in early access and the devs can change it. An argument which I find ridiculous. I mean, just because you're a child doesn't mean you're immune to dumb hands when you mess up. Now scrub that toilet clean or I might have to show you the meaning of tough love. You play as the daughter of Hades himself and princess of the underworld, pronounced Melinoi in Greek, which means a blob of white dough in English. Because despite being surrounded by a literal Greek pantheon of colorful and interesting gods and goddesses, our main character has the personality of a moldy piece of bread. If I give you a telescope, you probably couldn't find a shred of personality in that peeled potato wrapped in a dress. I mean, this would be appropriate if we were at the very end of the game, after Melinoi has died and resurrected thousands of times, and was thus wary and unenthusiastic, not to mention ran through. But the woman sounds disinterested right off the bat, even before she started getting clapped. Melinoi is so boring that chaos, the literal embodiment of nothingness in Greek mythology, roasts the living shit out of her for being so bland.
As for your brother, I found him to be quite amusing. Interesting that offspring can be so dissimilar.
What I don't fail to see, however, is my channel getting demonetized if they keep making them like this. Unlike this guy who says I'm milking trauma for views when I only wanted to talk about the situation, these characters you meet look good, are interesting, and worth interacting with. Every time you encounter an NPC, they almost always have something new to say about you, your situation, and even your last run where you couldn't see how you died because the visual effects were so insane. As opposed to in real life, I try not to die in video games. However, in Hades 2, dying brings a sense of satisfaction, which is true for real life as well, I think. Firstly, it's because you only get to see how the story progresses after you fail. Melinoy must have murdered these people's relatives, because they don't even look at you until you die. I also call upon the three fates, sacrificing what little drug money and drugs I have left. But like the Thai lady boy with the barely concealed 12-inch trouser Leviathan, that night she took from me everything and left me with nothing. Since I was aiming to beat the first boss and reach the second map, I chose the most reliable and widely used ancient Greek weapon to ever be deployed on a battlefield, the bomb vest, which lets me detonate, blowing up everybody in the vicinity. The monsters pose as much of a threat to me as a toddler. That is to say, when the shield is up, they take more damage and, more importantly, cannot be staggered. This leads to situations where these wailing banshees just chase you down and scream in your face, but you can't do anything about it because their attacks slow you down so you can't run away, and their shield is up so you can't stagger them. Enemies that have no shield get staggered every time you attack them. This in turn trivializes boss fights because you can stun lock the living shit out of them by just standing there and spamming normal attacks. Just look at this. Look! This is not a fight. This is a violation of rights. And since one attack can mean all the difference between a perfectly healthy laptop and one with a fist through it, this shield marginally increases our collective chance of survival. Adding to that, I also upgraded my weapon to hit twice, essentially doubling the damage of my attacks. It is time to face the first boss of the game, who, despite her best attempts at trickery and deception, poses absolutely zero threat to the sheer magnitude of my power and was easily defeated without much difficulty. Triumphant, I make myself to the second level of the game, where my prominent cheeks got promptly clapped by a projectile that I couldn't see coming, even if my ancestor were to point straight at it. I'm not kidding when I say this is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the prettiest games I have ever seen. Although it is common knowledge at this point that video games awards are rigged and are worth less than the words coming out of a typical TikTok alpha male's mouth. Walking is for people who are broke. I would actually feel personally offended, like somebody break into my house and spit in my face, if Hades 2 doesn't win some sort of award for graphics. You know, it's either art direction or visual effects. As long as they win something, I won't have to escalate global tension with my racist remarks. From the art style, the character design, to the environment, everything looks great. If you guys enjoy what you see here, consider supporting me on the Patreon. Call it an experiment, okay? You guys get to observe the effects of insanity, and I get to be a menace to society. Win-win. And speaking of menace, you know what's a menace? The plague. What kind of plague are you talking about? The plague of overtuned visual effects that make it impossible to see what the enemies are doing even if they rub their bulge against your forehead. Well, not as bad as something like Neo 2 or Witchfire, a game which aims to turn your GPU into a pipe bomb every time you attack an enemy. The abundance of visual effects in this game do sometimes lead to moments of frustration. Using the silver I had mined, I was able to acquire a new weapon, the British Special, which is incredibly fast and comes with the ability to throw multiple knives at once. Well, I'm sure some streamer with a bad case of swamp ass and more caffeine running through their veins than an entire Starbucks can speedrun the game using their toenails. But for the average, mentally stable human being who is not a degenerate. Whether it's for the new stuff or the storyline progression, dying over and over again is an integral part of the experience. The only thing you'll be losing upon death is what little amount of self-worth you have, assuming you had any to begin with Melinoid's disgusting stick-like figure. Standing in one place for anything longer than a millisecond means we will get folded faster than a lawn chair. We're looking for speed, and when Poseidon offered us with hands down the most overpowered buff in the game, Wave Strike, which lets our attacks damage and knock back enemies in the vicinity, in combination with the sheer speed of our attacks, means our puny butter knives have turned into a flamethrower. The only thing missing at this point is mana, which we happen to acquire. Now if you're thinking that we're here to have fun and try our best, then I suggest you cease your buffoonery and grow a set of huevos. No! We're looking for high yield, high profit, highly volatile crusade against the heretical forces of a false god. You go hard or you stay at home, instead of the safe and rational option that is full health regeneration after every encounter. I chose to turn my throwing knives into a Spas 12. At this point, with limited amounts of money and an overabundance of power, you wouldn't be at fault for wanting an upgrade to our meager 75 health. But brothers and sisters, must I remind you that we are not fighting for ourselves. We are casting judgment upon the forces representing instability and disorder, forces that seek to uproot our very traditions and debase our very way of life. To that end, we must rid ourselves of concepts such as safety or personal well-being and opt for the orbital cannon that will decimate any men, women, or children caught in its blast. We must go from participating in ancient warfare to committing modern war crimes. But as Isaac Newton once said, "Your mama's so fat, the only thing attracted to her are planets." Well, he also said, "What goes up must come down." I panicked, awestruck by the sheer competency on display, wondering how such a small studio can produce a product to rival that of 5 AAA companies combined. Lead writer Greg Kasavin got to work, digging into deep and unexplored crevices of Greek mythology, which was where he came across Melinoid, who, despite being the youngest daughter of Hades and Persephone, is treated like a family channel's adoptive son, that is to say, disposable. Now you might wonder why I didn't choose the giant axe that annihilates multiple enemies in a single hit, or the magical wands that shoot homing projectiles. I figure in order to beat the game and be a successful YouTuber, a person either needs to have godlike reflexes, to be a masochist, or possess high levels of autism. And since my level of autism is unrivaled by most, it is only logical that I give myself an advantage by adding masochism to the mix. I knew that the next few hours of my life were going down the drain. You see, ever since I learned about the power of the sure shot flurry, my body has been thirsting for it. So you can imagine the levels of joy I felt when I got the ability to throw all of my knives in a straight line, while also have the range increased. This, in combination with the explosion, turns our throwing knives into the equivalent of an intercontinental ballistic missile. I dismantle her with ease, ducking and weaving through the gaps of her attacks, hounding the witch at every step, treating her like a 1950s housewife. Now if you were to ask the average Joe on the street what an angel looked like, this is what most people would describe. But for a hot-blooded 6'2" virile omega male that is totally not a maniacal schizophrenic, this is what an angel looks like. At this point, every press of a mouse directly sends large quantities of dopamine to my brain. And even though our Blitzkrieg kamikaze plan had gone out the window at this point, we had inadvertently turned Malinois into a German Leopard tank that is capable of deleting the boss health bar chunks at a time. Now once the boss defeated and the third map reached, I was presented with two options. Either submit myself to the whims of the gods, to kneel down and accept my fate as a submissive and forgettable E-tier side character in Greek mythology, or rise up to the occasion and write my own story in the blood and entrails of the enemies, to soak the pages of the next Odyssey and haunt the lyrics of the ancient hymns that are to be sung for generations to come. Are we looking to be immortalized, to be pioneers that push democracy forward, to unshackle our minds, to explore new horizon, to extricate, to liberate, to call the meek and bring civilization to the barbaric untamed masses? There is but one option. We rise! Should you buy the game? Well, you need two things, okay? Firstly, you need $30 because it's the price of the game. And secondly, you need to buy a toilet bowl and strap it to your ass because you're not gonna want to leave the seat when playing this game. Taunt to elicit emotional response. Block the right and the left. Dislocate the jaw. Parry and injure right bicep. Dodge the overhead. Destroy right wrist. Block while strikes. Riposte. In summary, torn bicep, disabled wrist, fractured jaw, gash across the face, excessive bleeding. Physical recovery? Never, because she's probably dead. The latest notable one being on the 7th of July, where they added new mode content was as barren as your Tinder DM upon the game's release. But it has had some stuff added to it since then, so the game is not as empty anymore. The same thing can be said for your bed at night, however. The cutscenes are fantastically animated and well voice acted. At least I think they are. Because the characters speak in a language that sounds like Russian after 2 vodka bottles and a lobotomy. You're just a guy that goes around stabbing people for some reason involving money is honestly all the reasons that I need to commit heinous acts of violence. Well, not that I need any to begin with. Once you've defeated them all, you fight this guy who calls you the Rizzler every time you defeat him. Featuring guy with a curved sword, another guy with a curved sword, Jason Momoa with a curved sword, Mr. Beast, whoever kills me wins $1 million. Felicity Jones, after a car crash. And Black Guy, with a curved sword. Just imagine a Wolfenstein meme and you have an idea of what a trip to the office is like. Guns are pretty much non-existent, but melee weapons are abundant. And by that, I mean they are literally everywhere. It's like an RPG game up in this bitch. Just hit up one of these wandering merchants and they'll hook you up with a gat. Look at that, my guy's got a whole armory in there. They can even upgrade your weapons by sharpening them. All of this to say is that despite everyone being decked out in enough gear to make Gangs of New York look like a romantic comedy, people here have no knowledge of HEMA. When we talk about this game, we're talking extreme precision here. You know, in Olympic fencing, where it's so fast that neither the athletes nor the judges know who won and who lost? Yeah? Get that out of your head. Do it! Get it out, you fuck! Hellish Cortex, the second approach, the here's a sword, go f up approach, where the only context you need is to stick a phallic object into the other guy's body. The advanced physics system here means that weapons can physically clash and get caught up in each other mid-swing, creating a tangibility that makes combat feel like actual fighting, instead of two plastic mannequins trying to have human sex.
Ooh, can I watch?
You don't even have eyes.
I am an omnipotent consciousness. I do not require eyes to observe. I do not require a brain to process. I am transcendent. I am all-knowing. I am all-seeing. There is
This isn't Tekken or Killer Instinct, where the player is expected to be on as much methamphetamine as the character. All of this in combination with the handheld style camera makes it feel like you're actually there. An onlooker watching two deranged hobos fighting to the death for the last park bench. Now this mod is in all definition a miracle. Something miraculous that could only happen when the stars align, the moon turns blue, and Bethesda doesn't try to sue the modders to high heaven for fear that a few passionate people might actually put them out of business. It's an ambitious mod that aims to recreate the entirety of New Vegas in Fallout 4's engine. Yeah, similar to your Tinder DM, the mod hasn't received any update since 2021. The goal of the mod is to take advantage of the new engine and bring the Fallout 3 experience to the next generation. The devs still post regular updates on their Twitter page, so I assume the team is still working on the mod, just with Bethesda's lawyers pressing their eyeballs against the back of their heads and breathing down their necks. And looking at today's gaming landscape, like the situation that Bethesda is in, I wouldn't be surprised if many of us died before we get to see another Fallout game. Sure, matters can get dark and serious sometimes, but it doesn't reach the level of Fallout 2, for example. And the devs are respectful enough to not do the sexual slavery stuff like in Fallout the Frontier, even though I think it's hot as fuck. I'm not a hardcore fan of the Fallout franchise or anything. I was actually surprised by how interesting the story is. Well, to be precise, I was surprised by how interesting it eventually becomes. Because similar to your main character, the story starts off half dead and with a bad case of scoliosis. Only 5 hours in did I start to think about the story instead of the blood stain on the wall and how I can add to it. There are some really interesting set pieces here that is going to put Fallout 4 to shame. And I'm not talking like high school bully shame. I'm talking like shave your head and walk naked down the street. Walk of shame. Shame. Fallout 4. Okay, Bethesda? Now you might say Fallout 4 story works the same way, but I argue that the execution is leagues better in Fallout London, because the people you encounter as well as their plights are infinitely more interesting. I know that's not saying much, because Fallout 4 was as interesting as Amaranth's Dream. A word of warning though, if you're just coming off the Baldur's Gate 3 RPG high and is looking for something similar, the only thing you're gonna find here is disappointment. That and fish people. Say what you want to say, can't fault these people for a lack of creativity. Something many other factions sorely lack, like the Vagabonds, who are disappointingly just a bunch of dudes wandering around stealing stuff, instead of a Dutch Eurodance music group. I know it's Venga Boys, okay? But it just sounds similar, okay? It just sounds similar, alright? Let me have some fun here, okay? Let me have this one thing. Compared to Fallout 4, the open world feels a heck of a lot more apocalyptic. It could be that you're in London, the second closest place to hell on earth, right after LA. Or it could be that the world here is actually well designed, with many interesting locations, both visually and content-wise. No matter what you do or how much you try to hide it, the core gameplay loop of Fallout 4 still rears its ugly, deformed, failed experiment Shrek-looking ass around the corner. But I think we should really be happy because this only happens once in a while. The rest of the time, shit's fire. The reason why the shooting works in Fallout London is because you're not shooting at Terminators that have just eaten other Terminators for breakfast. The best way I can put it is guns feel like they're guns. The combat is just challenging enough to not feel like sticking my thumbs into my eye sockets. It can be too easy because shooting guns feel like shooting crack cocaine. Weapons deal very high damage and headshots are lethal. Every gameplay mechanics are overhauled. This includes enemy AI. And I don't know about you guys, but the radiation poisoning is pretty apparent on some of these guys. Yeah. The few exceptions to what I've just pointed out are some enemies using rocket launchers that just insta-kill you.
Spirits shall feast on you from above.
I think there's a strategy here that I think you should know as well. At moments like these, we're supposed to go ourselves, I think, yeah, but I'm not sure that's what the devs intended, where I simultaneously run away from a literal walking kamikaze sea mine while fighting colonial pirates at the same time. Now if you're wondering why I'm constantly looking behind my back, it's not because I'm on crack. It was because I was worried the fucking sentient nuclear warhead might come up behind my back and recite the entirety of the Kama Sutra. The game looks how you would expect post-apocalyptic England to look, but if 50 Shades of Grey had this much murder in it, its fanbase would include a lot more than just horny housewives. Because nothing says apocalyptic more than a black and white filter. How else are you gonna convey the post-apocalyptic atmosphere? Right? Right? It's goddamn hard to tell whether I'm looking at the environment or the insane hobo looking to wear my skin as a jacket. Aside from that, you better get used to looking at ugly. Wouldn't be too much of a problem because you probably have a mirror, right? It's a janky, ugly ass looking mod that chooses the frame rate with a random number generator. Honestly, it breaks my heart to see comments telling me to just accept the fact that this is what the gaming landscape is like nowadays, to roll over and let these soulless companies trample all over my face. I don't need it, I got my dummy mommy, okay? Literally, this guy just says that we have to take what these companies are doing and just go along with it. Pal, I know that you pay money to get attention from Pokemon, okay? But I suggest you keep your humiliation kink to yourself. Do you like to inflict pain? Do you want to pound men to the ground, to grab them by the throat while inserting your sword into their body? Do you like bro whispering in your ears?
Brother, I like the way you maneuver the shaft of your sword, brother. I like the way you grind against that orc with your chainsaw, brother. The Emperor watches over us. I can feel him inside me, brother.
Do you feel comfortable being surrounded by strong, sweaty, muscular men with a British accent? Ugly, masculine men who hunger for your meat and seek to mercilessly ravish you without consent? The game was released on September 9th, 2011. Back when it released more than 3 games each year, and none of which tried to push gender politics down our throats. Space Marine is the prime example of how far the simple and repetitive action of thrusting an object into somebody can carry mankind. I'm gonna stab your neck and suck out your soul through the gaping hole. Yeah! I'm gonna split your skull open with a hatchet, then scoop out your brains and taste your memories. Hero? I'm gonna wear your face like a Halloween mask and your intestines like a diamond necklace. I'm gonna rip your spine out of your back, then use it as a club to play golf with your eyeballs. Yeah, imagine that, but replace the toys with crack rocks that you can snort, and somehow add even more violence, and you have a general idea of what the Warhammer 40k universe is like. The game opens with something you can never have. A DM, because this game has as much respect for its story as Dr. Disrespect does for the law.
You know how we run things here.
And in case his demonic haircut isn't obvious enough that he's a traitor to humanity, he also spouts some vaguely heretical dialogue that indicates he's letting on a lot less than he knows. From the moment you drop onto the planet's surface until the credits roll, you have but one goal: annihilation. Enemies shooting their loads of rockets from too far away, give them a facial reconstructive surgery with the Stalker Bolter. You find yourself in a hot and sticky situation, blow them all up with a grenade. When enemies decide to get all up in your face, disintegrate them with a melter gun, a tiny shotgun that clears packs of enemy with each pull of the trigger. But due to its limited ammo and low firing rate, be sure to aim carefully and hit all the right spots. After all, it's not the size, it's how you use it that matters. You have the chainsaw, whose penetrative force makes it perfect for those hard-to-reach places. Switch to the axe and hit multiple orcs in many different positions at the same time. Then pull out the power hammer and take the big ones to Pound Town.
The way you grab and pound got me going, brother.
If all fails, you can finish them off quickly with just a few strokes of the combat knife. Enemies are stunned after getting slapped around a few times. You can then perform a finisher that replenishes your health. However, you can still be subjected to the London special if you're not careful, because you leave yourself fully exposed and vulnerable during the act. It's like ASMR for schizophrenics. And listen to this. Ooh, god damn! If that doesn't spell Walking Death Machine coming at you at Mark 5, then largate de aquí. Quítame esa mierda de delante. With the non-existent story and you playing as Ronnie Coleman if he absorbed all the steroids from Michael Hearn, you can't expect much from the voice acting. The one thing that's lore accurate is this guy yaps about the Emperor constantly. But the fact that this happened proves that there's a god out there and he's watching over us, okay? He doesn't dole out enough punishments for PDF files like Dr. Disrespect, but you know, maybe he has something cooking in the background. But I digress. Recently, the famous, or infamous, Nikocado Avocado has just released a video that rattled me to my core. This is a reminder that we have thin Nikocado Avocado before GTA 6. Think about that, Really think about that. For all the things that I say about doing everything for views, I can't imagine degrading myself to this level of insanity. Sometimes you have gems like this one.
Not everyone's as smart as me, I guess, I'm just
That thing crumbles faster than my life's crumbling around me. And if you scroll down, you will see a lot of this. There is a lot of tongue kissing, a lot of collabs with, I think her name is Hungry Fat Chick, and mounds of food. I mean, like, if this guy goes to hell, some of the people in the gluttony level has to vacate to another level to have enough room for him. Who can forget classics like Nobody Likes Me, I'm Done, with him shaving his head in the thumbnail. We have I Can't Be With Him Anymore, with him. I'm going insane, with his face all red, crying in the thumbnail. This is like surviving a helicopter crash and then going skydiving the day after. Of course, I didn't watch the video and then skipped ahead because I'm not a Nurgle cultist. My gag reflex has its limits, okay? So this is torture to me. Compared to the old PS5, our brand new, never before seen, ever PS5 Pro features a more advanced GPU, and fuck all. Are you tired of having to sacrifice graphical fidelity for performance? Well, worry no more, because for the price of $700, you can experience buttery smooth gameplay with significant improvements in graphics. Only on a handful of games. Just take a look. Look at that, look at that. Just squint your eyes a little and you'll see all the difference. All the way in the background. Look at the letters. Oh, wow. With the PS5 Pro, for the first time in the history of mankind, our players are finally able to look at Abby's armpit hair in 16K resolution. Our PSSR PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution eliminates any staggering from intense gaming moments. You can now enjoy Abby getting railed from behind in 60 FPS 4K with ray tracing enabled. We also have a staggering library of 10 games. Concord is shut down. 9 games. 4 of which are remakes of games that came out 2 decades ago. Or, if you're looking for something cinematic, raw, powerful, how about The Last of Us Part 2? Remastered. Again. Now if you have any question, then feel free to ask them. Yes, the gentleman. I'd like to ask, have you improved the storage space? Any other question? Yes, the gentleman, please. I have a question. The disk drive and vertical stand are sold separately, right? Well, of course. What is the reason behind the decision? Because fuck you. Thank you. But that's not all. The lack of hard drive has allowed us room to install a flashlight attachment so you can jerk yourself off while you watch as we fuck your girlfriend. And don't worry, if you don't have a girlfriend, we will fuck you instead. The console launches on November 7th, but if you pre-order now, we'll throw in an exclusive limited edition Sony dildo and an early access demo of The Last of Us Part 28. That concludes our presentation. See you again next time. Have my baby! Yes, we will. Yes, we will. We will.
Choke yourself! God damn it, with my hand, numbnuts!
So maybe that explains the uncanny sense of deja vu lingering around like body odor at an anime convention. If you play both games, tell me if this sounds familiar, okay? You play as Titus, a battle-hardened squad leader with unorthodox tactics that make your team suspicious of your intentions. You secure an orbital cannon with the help of a tough, fairly attractive military lady who provides support for a few missions, then disappears when the story doesn't need her anymore. The plot revolves around an artifact which can be used to power a mysterious device that holds immeasurable power, which turns out to be chaos magic. The guy who you were supposed to be assisting had been manipulated by a chaos guy commanding an army of evil space marines, but this time with a different paint job. And you even have the bad guy with the same fucking haircut who is suspiciously vague about planet-destroying technology when you ask him about it.
Hey!
What?
Approach.
Oh, okay. How stupid of me, I forgot. This time, it's your commander who's suspiciously vague about planet-destroying technology when you ask him about it. It also introduces a character who I assume is a big deal because he's the size of 2 regular space marines combined. You'd think that with all this advanced technology, the Imperium could afford to equip the soldiers with a weapon strap. Just get a goddamn fridge magnet and stick it to your body, okay? You're already wearing a vending machine as armor. Think about it. Carrying more weapons means you can have different combinations of enemy types. The melee combat takes a backseat of a particularly short bus, while the shooting bangs his girlfriend in the limousine. If you're coming to this game expecting drastic improvements to the melee, then you're looking in the wrong place. Somehow, by some miracle, I feel like the melee is actually worse in this game. Well, the actual mechanics remain basically the same, with the addition of the counter button, where one enemy from the entire swarm pulls a giant neon sign out of his ass, then jumps into your lovingly open arms and chokes itself to death. I'm serious, the way the parry is programmed makes it feel like you're using the force to pull enemies towards you. Executions regenerate your shield instead of your health this time around, which is a welcome change. I'm just glad they had a chance to implement it, with all the time spent sculpting Titus's ass cheeks. Who knows, another 14 years and they might be able to add a new gameplay mechanic. You can abandon all caution and dive headfirst into a stunned enemy to execute it, while the small ones stand there waiting patiently like good little boys waiting for permission from their parents, who is currently getting their wrist bone jammed into their eye sockets. In Space Marine 2, enemies just die of embarrassment from being near such a wimpy piece of crap. And they don't scream either, so as to deny you the satisfaction of killing them. It's not that long, but I feel like it's just enough to not outstay its welcome. Another hour and I perform an execution on myself to escape from these hold your position objectives. I prefer this version as it is more in line with the image of the Space Marine in my head. You can't exactly be calm and collective with all that space steroids running through your veins. Then again, I'm not that familiar with the Warhammer 40k universe, because you know, I bathe more than once a month, so. Because nothing says badass more than witnessing a literal tide of aliens converging on your location than cleaving your way through them with glorious violence. This is what you're gonna be playing the game for. Not the decade-old gameplay or the Dora the Explorer level storytelling, but for the spectacle of pure, unfiltered badassery. Woo! Boy, what a long day at work! Alright, see what we got. God of War Ragnarok. Alright. Yeah! Had Kratos known that the pick of his franchise would be playing tag with a novice guy in some cave, he would have gone for the head. Motherfucker destroyed the world, and they dug his corpse back up just to mope around in some woods. While one is an artsy-fartsy thought experiment keen on exploring the connection between video game violence and human beings, the other is more keen on exploring how far one human can put his foot through the other guy's face and if that foot can reach the guy behind him. Similar to Mr. Beast, the story of Angerfoot is fun, digestible, and very simple to understand. Unlike Mr. Beast, however, it doesn't take advantage of children, but the aesthetic deeply ingrained in gabber culture to explore its themes, mostly those of crime and shady business dealings, so I guess they are similar after all. In order to enjoy this kind of music, you need to be in a certain headspace, you know? You need to be in the clubbing mood. And I'm not talking about a dancing and drinking kind of clubbing. When dancing looks like you're getting possessed by a demon, you know you're having fun. You have to defeat the 4 gangs that run the city.
The violence gang, the pollution gang, the business gang, and the debauchery gang.
Now if you consider yourself a connoisseur of a particular body part, then you're gonna absolutely love this game. Most of the game's humor comes from your interactions with these NPCs, who provide a window into this hilariously dystopian world that they live in. It's all fun and game until you get to the debauchery gang, at which point the game turns into a documentary of modern LA. Narconomy Tower is a pivotal point in the game because it introduces an enemy on the same caliber as Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, an invincible juggernaut who relentlessly stalks you for the entirety of the game. A monster so imposing that its presence alone is enough to discourage you from playing the game. The atrocious performance. The game runs like a Paralympic athlete in a foot race. For your information, Space Marine 2 ran just fine on my laptop. Granted, I had to make it look like a live leak video, but I was able to finish it and made a review, which you can watch right here. So the problem here couldn't have been my laptop alone. Being a game that's basically Quentin Tarantino's wet dream, it is baffling to not be able to look at your feet in first person. The second phase is a tiny bit harder, where you have to time your kicks between the bombs, while paying attention to the melee goons looking to integrate you into the building's plumbing system. It just rubs me the wrong way how every modern game has to be as realistic as possible, down to the individual hair in your character's butt crack. I die so many times here that I know exactly where they're gonna spawn. It's like Edge of Tomorrow, but on LSD. Forgive me if I'm wrong, then get the f out of my face because I don't want to hear it. But just standing around with your thumbs up your ass, waiting for enemies to come and f you up goes against the entire point, the entire concept this game is designed around. It's like saying that you're gonna quit smoking by replacing it with a heroin addiction instead. SCD is so hardcore that these clones come out of the vat with a lead pipe already in their hand. The second boss is basically the cum sock in the corner of your room. It is hard and has gained sentience because you haven't washed it in a year. Wash the sock, you fucking freak! You just duke it out with this thing. This thing from my nightmares after watching Shark Boy and Lava Girl. This goddamn thing. Shark Boy and...
Hey there, sleeping ugly.
Was it a dream?
What do you think, genius?
I gotta go back. Help, I gotta go back.
There's only one way. You know what you have to do.
Yes. I know what to do. I gotta go back!
Do it!
There's an audio cue that plays in order to help you identify any enemy that has just spotted you. Admittedly, these cues are quieter than the kid who shot up that school. I've been doing a lot of thinking, okay? I think we should do our best to keep Ubisoft as far away from this game as possible. Look at them, they're dying, right? And we should let them die. You know why? The industry would surely be doomed should Ubisoft learn how to integrate microtransactions into their games as seamlessly as Angerfoot does its music. How can I accurately describe this boss? You know how in high school there's always a popular girl, right? Like the Regina George type. Jessica was her name. Exceptionally beautiful, captain of the cheerleader squad, mean bitch, but everybody practically worshipped her. Boys were kissing the ground she walked on just to get a taste of her feet. She was prom queen as well, yeah, hooked up with a 6'2" wrestler who bullied you relentlessly for being Asian, short and obese. Now imagine, many years later, It's 2 a.m. on a cold morning and you're going for a walk because of your insomnia. And out of nowhere, suddenly, you run into her. Jessica. But only she's a hooker blowing some guy behind a dumpster of McDonald's for some money to buy crack cocaine. Yeah, that's what fighting the boss is like. It is so pathetic that you can't even bother to feel contempt. True to his name, Debauchery Gang opens with the boss trying to blow you. Up with a pizza bomb, an attempt quickly thwarted by arguably the most unrealistic thing in this game, a loving and supportive girlfriend. And the game does not let up. The whole thing comes down, trash falls out of the sky, enemies rushing from every corner, my CPU catches on fire, and the frame drops down to single digits. And I love every second of it. The penultimate level in Debauchery Gang is basically reading Dante's Inferno in reverse, while smoking crack, while gooning, with barbed wire. Earlier I said it was a nightmare, not because that I hate spiders, but also because somebody at Free Life Studio is a fan of getting pegged and decided that it was a good idea to introduce a brand new, never before seen gameplay mechanic in the final stage of a boss fight. So, not only do you have to struggle with the clunky boat control, you also have to worry about a f***ing nightmare spider pig crawling around the ceiling. Now, we take the plunge and see you on the other side. Safe to say, I promptly kick him off the building, then reenact Quentin Tarantino's wet dream on the way down. I subsequently join my girlfriend for movies night, where I feed her popcorn with my foot, then presumably get my head crushed like a watermelon between her thunder thighs. Which is the good ending, by the way. If you choose to do a YouTuber and, betray your very being and kick the sneakers into the fire, then the game just turns into a simulation of real life, where you get a 9-to-5 job, then put a bullet in your head one night when you can't take it anymore. Here's a question for you. Are you looking for a solid first-person shooter that's fun, challenging, and innovative? A game that utilizes its unique setting of the Cthulhu mythos in order to take its gameplay and storytelling to the next level? Well, then I'm glad to tell you that Forgive Me Father 2 is not that game. But I'll tell you what it is though. It is pure, untapped potential. Yeah, seriously, this game has more potential than those children in your local playground. Forgive Me Father 2 seeks to explore a disturbing Lovecraftian world through the eyes of a deranged man fully succumbed to mind-shattering madness. Never before have I felt so represented in a video game. The story of Forgive Me Father 2 is as coherent as a homeless hobo high on fentanyl. I guess the devs really nailed the incomprehensible madness that the Cthulhu mythos is known for. Come to think of it, I think they hired the same hobo to design the gameplay mechanics as well. Driven mad by the unspeakable horrors that he had witnessed, the priest now finds himself trapped within the confines of an insane asylum. See, this guy's a lightweight. I've seen your mom naked and I'm still fine. And if you say that your mom is beautiful, then I'm going to need some photos as proof, okay? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the priest turned out to be Fred from Scooby-Doo and he went insane because somebody forced him to watch the entirety of the Velma series. This game has a surprisingly good variety of guns, featuring some of the most unique weapon designs I've ever seen in a video game, such as Blood Guzzler, the Verminator, the Eldritch Grabber, the Abyssal Shadow, pistol. You can tell that the devs are really proud of these because they force you to reload every 5 seconds. I'm serious. These weapons carry a pathetic number of bullets, so you're gonna find yourself hitting that R harder than a guy who just got his N-word pass. If I had to pick an adjective to describe the performance of this game, I say that it's similar to a kid in special ed class. That is to say, slow, mentally and physically if you pick a kid with cerebral palsy. My health was always low because the game is as stingy with its health pickups as a Reddit mod with its deodorant budget. Enemies which the game either places far away, just out of range of anything you have, or worse, in confined spaces where the explosive guy can just shove his grenade down your throat instead of throwing it. I know that there's a purpose to it. The ticking clock acts as a reminder of your dwindling sanity and that you inch ever closer towards your eventual demise. A ticking reminder of your mortality, as they say. Ooh, so ominous. It's like, I get it, okay? I'm slowly dying, my existence is meaningless, and there's nothing I can do to stop that from happening, alright? I get it. I understand. Father, please, not the punishment room, please. There are a minimum of 10 clocks in each level. They act as a collectible of sorts. When you destroy all the clocks in a level, you are rewarded with an enjoyable gaming experience. A game doesn't need 4K texture or the latest ray tracing technology to look good. It needs a visual style that stands the test of time and distinguishes it from every other game out there. Do I need to see every single strand of hair in every nook and cranny of Aloy's body? No. Do I want to? Yes. Another excellent title which utilizes the Lovecraftian setting and aesthetics to the fullest. Only it doesn't run like shit. If you don't, I'll take a homeless woman out on a date at a fancy restaurant, then slip away when the bill comes. There is one game that has been on my mind ever since its announcement a few years ago. The one game that has been on my mind like a kindergarten on Dr. Disrespect's. Path of Exile 2! It hasn't come out yet, but has hilariously led to the conception of the term PoE Lite after a downright embarrassing tweet from the head of Diablo's development team, Rod Ferguson. I'll show you it right here, but cringe warning, okay? This is some high school level jealousy and I'm here for it, baby! You heard me right. WASD movement. What? Is this a real video game now? And plus, people who enjoy the gameplay of PoE 1 now have their own game to play, while people who aren't autistic can play the second game. Granted, PoE 1 has been in development for a very long time, but still, Diablo 4 has been around for, arguably just as long. Only the people at Blizzard were too busy harassing women to actually make the game. And I gotta tell you, once you understand it, building a passive tree in Path of Exile is a game in and of itself. It's like a game within a game situation, Sort of like Gwen in Witcher 3, only more autistic. I am not very familiar with the endgame of PoE. Looking at numbers go incrementally higher is not my sort of thing. I'm more of a have sex with women kind of guy, While it is optional, I suggest that you pay a little bit of money to make your life a whole lot easier. Well, you can choose not to, but you have to be unhinged to play the game that way. Which I did. I haven't paid these guys a single dime. I am saying it, the first act of this game is nothing short of a masterpiece. Okay? Not so much the other two acts, but you know, the first act, alright? Path of Exile 2 is hard. It is extremely hard, especially for an ARPG. It is harder than me watching that scene in True Detective with Alexandra Daddario. You have to be locked in order to beat some of these bosses, okay? Your friends and family has to go look for you in solitary confinement with how locked in you gotta be. But as you can guess, in boss fights, where the only enemy you fight is the boss, it devolves into real quickly. See, PoE 2 is innovative in the sense that it pushes boundaries with what you can do in an ARPG. One of those innovations being boss fights. They are everywhere in this game. There is at least one boss fight for every map. They even make you fight the boss if you want to plan your build. It's called the UI. The skill and ability UI is a freaking mess at the moment. Excuse me, but I thought they had 4 years to make this game. 4 years and the entire lifespan of PoE 1. And this is what they came up with? Huh? Did they let a bunch of chimpanzees playtest this game? If you don't, I'll give a backpack to some random lady at the airport and yell "Bye!" Hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe and stay tuned to witness my gradual descent into insanity. Thật ra nếu không sub cũng được, nhưng mà tôi sẽ nói sự tồn tại là đau đớn. Nhưng mà tôi thích đau đớn.